And we're live. Welcome to RetroSlot, the RetroSlot podcast episode. I believe it's 9. I'm pretty sure I did the math correctly on that one. The Castlevania episode. I'm really excited to talk some Castlevania with you, Jay. I'm really excited.
Know, I was going to ask you a minute ago, but like, how far did you get?
All right, so I actually beat the game for the first time earlier. Well, it's not 2020 anymore, but probably I think it was around like February or March of 2020. I got the Castlevania collection on the Switch, which is actually an excellent way to play Castlevania games, old Castlevania games. So I beat it for the first time on there, and then I hadn't touched it much since then. But in the intervening time, I've gotten the NT Mini and actual NES cartridge of Castlevania. So over the last week, I've been kind of working on just beating it regular on the cartridge, and I did that I think 2 days ago, 1 day ago.
With no save states?
No save states, but there's unlimited continues in that game. So you can what I did do is I didn't save the game, obviously, but I did just leave the console running. Old school.
1989,
yeah.
Dude.
Old school save.
Straight up.
Old school save
straight up.
Because I couldn't beat it straight through. I'm not good enough at the game. That game gets hard in the later levels, like real hard, especially like I don't want to start talking about Castlevania just yet. I wanted to say hi. So why don't we talk about that later?
Sorry.
How you doing, Jay?
Chomping at the bit.
Yeah, what have you been up to, man?
Wanting sleep.
Yeah? Are you sleep deprived? Do you have trouble sleeping? Are you like a
insomniac
it's kind of guy?
The schedule for us is a little bonkers, but we're fine. I'm just being that guy. We have New Year's.
Yeah.
New Year's happened.
That did happen. It was overshadowed, I'd say, in the week's news, to be honest.
A little bit. 2020, the 2021 inning.
Yeah. The best thing that came out of New Year's was there's a new show on Netflix, or it was a movie on Netflix by the guys who did Black Mirror. I can't remember what it was called now, but it was something to the effect of like "Fuck You 2020." Did you see that? Or like Death to 2020? Something like that. I can't remember exactly what
I haven't
called.
seen it. No.
But you've seen Black Mirror, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it's like those guys did like a 2020 recap, and it was hilarious.
It's like all the stuff that happened in 2020?
Like all the notable things that happened in 2020. And there was a lot of them. Like it's almost like mind-boggling like how much like crazy stuff happened in 2020. But that show or that movie just went through them all, and it did it in this kind of like docudrama, like fake docudrama kind of way, where they had actors playing the parts of like experts, and the experts would kind of go through what had happened, but obviously putting a funny take on everything. And it was legitimately, it was cathartic to watch it because it's okay. We're out of 2020. We can make fun of 2020 a little bit now. Unfortunately, that was ruined by 2021. And boy, this year is starting off strong for a contender in all-time worst.
Right off the bat.
Yeah. Anyhow, I do suffer from insomniac, actually.
Really?
Insomnia. Yeah, I hadn't until probably the last like 3 or 4 years. It's really been like a recent onset thing. And I think it probably has to do with sitting in this office for too many hours and like not going outside and getting like the rhythm of daytime. You know what I mean? Like seeing the sun, your body responds to seeing the sun. So I've actually made an effort over the last year to see more sunlight in the day, because like when I'm recording now, I have windows in my office, but they're blocked by shades.
Right.
Because like once you start doing video and stuff, like it's really important to control the light sources in the room that you're recording in. Otherwise, it looks really weird. So I have windows, but they're always closed, so you can't tell what time of day it is.
Yeah, I got blackout shades as well.
Yeah. Which I
do
like.
You,
like.
Do you take like vitamin D supplements or anything?
I do. Yeah. I walk the dog. I try and walk the dog. I try and set an alarm for the same time every day, and walk the dog within an hour of waking up. And that helps as long as I actually do it. But I had the excuse all year of having a back injury that made it very convenient. Oh, my back hurts. I don't want to walk the dog. You know what I mean? So I got to get off of that.
Yeah, I'm working on like not necessarily a resolution. It's more like a how can I stop feeling like garbage kind of
Yeah.
mentality, you know, and just trying to pick one thing. If I can perchance like wake up, like you said, and kind of just get going.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if anybody that listens to this show knows what drum corps is, but back when I was in drum corps, very often it was like kind of military where it's like they flip on the lights and it's like, all right, let's go, everybody, get your shoes on, get your clothes on, let's go, we're running. And you're out in the probably 40-degree chilliness, at least in the winter time when you're at camps, and you're literally just running to wake your ass up.
Yeah.
And you have all these like, you know, 15 to 22
Who needs
year
coffee
olds.
when you got that?
Yeah. I mean, it wakes you up. It like gets your heart going, you know. It's not like a
Exercise
hard
in the morning
run.
is good for you too, because it kind of sets the whole thing for the day. I mentioned it before we started doing the show that we're cleaning the basement right now, and one of the reasons we're doing that is to set up all our workout equipment. When I moved into this house, I had workout equipment like a Bowflex and some free weights and stuff. And we're gonna set all that stuff back up so that me and the rest of the family could start working out again.
Every time I see or hear about a Bowflex, I think about like, did you buy that in 1998?
No, I bought it in like 2015. No, earlier than that. No, probably 2010.
They really got in your head, didn't they?
I
lasted that long.
I just wanted something. I just wanted something that had like a bunch of exercises, but I didn't want free weights because I knew I was going to be working out myself, and free weights can be a little dangerous when you're working out yourself.
Yeah, no spotter for sure.
Yeah, so Bowflex kind of fit the bill for me, and it was actually really like, this isn't an ad for Bowflex or anything, but it was actually worked really well for me because I could do a lot of exercises in a fairly compact space. It worked.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I have a challenge for anybody that's listening to the show right now. If you somehow get some kind of ad on Facebook or your search engine or something like that, and it's about Bowflex and you've never searched for Bowflex before, I want you to tag us and let us know, because I swear there's this new phenomenon where like when I've been live and stuff and talking about the randomest things, the most random things, people will like pop in the next day. They're like, dude, you were talking about this thing last night and I've never searched for this ever. And all of a sudden I'm getting all these ads for it.
No kidding.
Like, huh?
From a podcast that they were listening to or a stream?
No, like from stream.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Well, so it makes sense. Twitch is like tied into Amazon now, and Amazon's doing a lot of advertising.
It's a Facebook ad. So I was like, is it your phone picking that stuff up?
Yeah, what could that be?
You know? So like it was a Herman Miller ad. They're like, I've never, and I literally talked about Herman Miller last night. They're like, I've never searched for Herman Miller or anything. And you mentioned it last night, and there it is on my Facebook.
Wow.
And it happened again. It happened like a week ago. And my mentality was like, oh, you mean if I think about weird things to talk about, maybe you'll get search results for them, like chocolate buttholes. Maybe if we talk about chocolate buttholes, you'll get an advertisement for chocolate buttholes.
Constantly getting advertisements for chocolate buttholes. And frankly, it's over the top. I'm on a goddamn diet. I'm trying to cut down. It's just chocolate buttholes, chocolate buttholes, chocolate buttholes. You know, I just got off of my candy flavored dicks addiction. Like I just got over it. And it took a long time. Just transitioning right on over now to chocolate buttholes.
Figured you'd appreciate that.
I wonder if it's like I actually was talking about this yesterday on SideQuest, but I wonder if it's like that phenomenon when you buy a new car and then you start to see that car like everywhere you go, and that same make and model was at the same frequency. You saw it at the same frequency before, you just didn't notice it. Mm-hmm. But now that you own that car, you see it all the time and you notice it. I wonder if it's that kind of a thing.
Yeah, maybe. Could be.
Or it could be that Facebook is definitely snooping on us.
I mean, I would, like Facebook and Google, like,
yeah.
Would you put it past, I'm not trying to be like big doom and gloom type mentality, but like, they do sell our information. We know that.
No, I assume this is happening, that they are spying on us like all the time.
Yeah. I mean, we've heard from people that have the ALEXA. I don't want to trigger everybody's thing. The Amazon speaker thing where it's kind of always listening.
Yeah.
And it tries to predict what you want to buy based when you go on Amazon and stuff, and I imagine it could be a similar
That
technology.
stuff comes on devices you don't expect it to, too. It was like my TV that I just bought. I bought an LG CX 48. That's like my main monitor right here that I game on. And that comes with the Google Assistant built in. And like you have to go in and turn it off when you get the TV, which is like, I think kind of creepy, man. They're putting on that on shit that doesn't even like have anything to do with it.
Well, and when you sign up for stuff and you kind of click that agreement, it says, we're going to show you ads regardless, but do you want it to be more targeted towards your interests? And I'm like, are those interests now things that we're talking about? Because that would be kind of sneaky. Yeah.
Wow, how many chocolate butthole ads do you have? Guess the answer is yes.
Honey, please let me know before you use my computer. Thanks.
Clear search history. Oh man, there's not a whole lot of gaming news this week. So I mean, you put together a few stories. I tried to put together a few stories, but I couldn't find anything that I cared about, so I just assumed nobody else would care about it either. Like there was some old news about. Have you seen this Atomic Wave stuff? The Atomic Wave arcade games are being ported or have been ported now over to the Dreamcast, which apparently the Atomic Wave arcade cabinets were basically like they're basically the same hardware as the Sega Dreamcast, but obviously they were in the arcade, and they operated sort of similar to the Neo Geo MVS, where you had the hardware in there, and then you put basically the software could be replaced on the hardware, so they could flip what game was in an arcade cabinet very easily. And because the arcade cabinets were based on the Sega Dreamcast, that has all now been ported so you can play it on a Sega Dreamcast. But you've got to have an ODE, an optical disc emulator. You cannot burn it to a CD and play it on a Dreamcast because the access time is too long and it will cause the games to error out. So you have to have an optical disc emulator. So like basically a device that lets you play games off of a memory card of some sort.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, but there's like I think there's like 50 games that just like got added to the library of Dreamcast.
Damn.
Which is kind of nice.
Bring back the Dreamcast.
I have been dude, I am literally filming a video today about a new controller that I bought for the Dreamcast. I
saw that picture on Twitter. I thought it was funny. It's a wireless controller, but then you put in the VMU or something.
No,
that has
it's
a
not.
Wire on it.
It's not wireless. It's not a wireless controller.
Wireless. Okay.
No, I bought.
Looked like the wireless.
I bought another of the same from the same company for the Nintendo 64 that is wireless. That I bought. Well, I funded it through Kickstarter, and they're shipping those out now. Right. But that one's wireless. But this one, the Striker DC for the Dreamcast, is not wireless. But it's like it's funny. It's a funny controller because it's like a modern, like ergonomically styled controller. But it plugs into the port on the front of the Dreamcast, which is kind of a weird feeling. You know, instead of using like the official Sega Dreamcast controller.
The original Duke. The Dreamcast controllers kind of remind me of the Duke Xbox controller. The giant.
They suck. I got one right here. This is it.
Yeah.
Okay. So anybody who's watching the video can see it. The weird thing is it's tapered like inward toward your body. So like instead of being out this way, it's this way. So it forces your wrist to kind of really bend. Right? It's like that's not good ergonomic design.
Vertical, yeah.
And then you'll notice, looking at the back of it, that the cord comes out the bottom, but the console's over there. it's like a good 6 to 8 inches of controller cord. Like it's a bizarre controller. It's got an analog stick and it's got analog triggers and it's got like obviously this hole that you can see the screen. The memory cards had a VMU that had a LCD screen on them, and you could do all sorts of cool stuff with that. But the controller, I mean, in the day it didn't seem as bad as it does now, but now like with modern controller design, it's kind of notable for how shitty it is.
I'm just picturing, like, you mean, you don't put your Dreamcast under your legs behind you?
I sit on it. Yeah, I sit on the Dreamcast. That's how you keep it warm.
Actually, hold up that Dreamcast controller again real quick.
The new one or the old one?
Old one. Sorry, you literally just put it away. I'm making him get it back out again.
There it is.
Flip it upside down. But like, I want to see the front. Like where the.
I'm trying.
But there we go. It kind of looks like a character mask, almost like, it's got like little like ear horns.
I can see that. If you look at the Saturn had a 3D controller late in its lifespan, and it looks very reminiscent to the Dreamcast controller. And then when you do, if you actually compare the Dreamcast controller to the original Duke controller that came with the Xbox, you can see a very direct lineage. You get like looking back on it, I didn't realize it at the time, but it's shocking to see how many similarities there are between the original Xbox and the Dreamcast. And then having, knowing what we know now, and now we know that there was a lot of Sega and Microsoft kind of cooperation at that time. So there very well could have been some design help crossover. Yeah, I think that's a good word for it.
I mean, it makes sense. Sega GT 2002 was one of my favorite early on Xbox games.
Yeah.
Did you ever play that?
I did play that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually had Outrun 2, which I really regret selling, because I probably sold it to GameStop for $3.
Yeah.
And now it's one of the most expensive Xbox games.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's very expensive. It was really good. I've looked into getting another copy of it, but it's going to be emulated if it's going to be played by me at this point.
What game is it?
Outrun 2.
Did you like
the Xbox
Duke controllers?
I did. I thought so. For me, I've got bigger hands. The Duke controller was awesome. I still have my original Duke controller, and I bought a Hyperkin replica Duke controller for PC and Xbox One.
Fair enough. I never understood. I'm just trying to figure out. I don't want to talk shit. I've never understood the Duke controllers.
It was just too big for most people's hands, I think.
Right.
For me, they came out with the S controller, the controller S, which they had originally introduced for the Japanese market. And I found that to be, mostly better, but just a little bit too small. Just a little bit. And then I feel like they actually hit the nail right on the head with the corded version of the Xbox 360 controller. I still think that's one of the best controllers ever made, like by any company.
Yeah, it's probably why they've iterated on that design, 3 times now?
Yeah, twice.
Oh.
I guess twice. Xbox One and now the current Xbox, which the current Xbox controller is a very mild redesign of the.
Yeah, there's not much change
Xbox
at this
One.
point.
Yeah, it is a better controller than the Xbox One controller, though. Like, I do like it better.
So I'm looking up Xbox games, and it was the Outrun 2006 was the one that's expensive. Outrun 2 is not that expensive.
Oh, it's not? Okay.
No, it's like $20-$25.
Okay. Outrun 2006. I actually didn't know that there were 2 different Outruns that came out for Xbox.
Well, now you know.
And now I know. Knowing is half the battle. Go Joe. Also, I didn't have Outrun 2006, so that actually makes me feel somewhat better. I had Outrun 2.
Oh, yeah.
Are they the same game?
I don't think so. It says coast to coast. I think it's it looks like if you compared Forza to Forza Horizon.
Okay.
It has that aesthetic change between the two cover arts. I honestly have never played either one, so I have no idea.
Interesting. I will have to play both of them and find out what the differences are. But I've been really obsessed with my Dreamcast though lately. I got the mode, which is the optical disc emulator that works in the Dreamcast and the Saturn. And I only got one of them, even though I have both a Dreamcast and a Saturn, because it's $200, right? So I didn't want to buy 2, one for each console. So I just I loaded all the Saturn games and all the Dreamcast games on one mode, because it takes like a regular SSD hard drive, and I just move it between the two when I need to. But basically, it's stayed in my Dreamcast for the last 3 months. It spent like 2 weeks in my Sega Saturn, and then got moved to the Dreamcast, and then it's been there ever since. And I've been playing games like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Ikaruga. I plugged in, or I played a bit of Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil Code Veronica, which I can't play those original Resident Evil games anymore with the 10 controls and the fixed camera. I just can't do it. It just early 3D games, man, it's hard to go back to because they don't play very well. Like they hadn't figured out things like camera and movement, like real basic stuff.
Right. Well, it's like you're holding up and then you go to a new area and you're going down, but you still have to hold up. It's the most like you're like, I don't know which direction I'm going.
You get through the loading screen of a door, and then the directions are reversed. So you go right back into that loading screen. Yeah. I mean, I loved them at the time, but they're super hard to go back to.
Most of those games that you just said are also in GameCube, I believe.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. But Dreamcast, as we all know, was far superior to the GameCube for numerous.
Was there really
reasons.
That much difference?
I don't
know. The GameCube came out like 3 years later, 3 years later.
Really? Was it that much later? I don't remember the dates for the GameCube.
98 for Dreamcast.
98 in Japan, 98. Right? 99 for US.
GameCube is 2001.
Okay. So.
Oh yeah. So I guess. Sorry. Yeah. September 99 for North America.
The GameCube literally came out like out of its birthing canal and stepped on the grave of the Dreamcast in 2001.
2 years later. Yeah.
Because the Dreamcast only lasted for 2 years. It was from 99 to 2001.
It was the only console that could do what it did.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it was the only console that I'd ever seen that had 480p at the time. Progressive scan. It looked amazing, too.
PS2 came out in March of 2000. That's Japan, actually.
Japan,
sorry.
Yeah.
No, actually, October for US.
Yeah. Dreamcast came out in 99 in America. And it was amazing when it came out. It was really revolutionary, but a lot of people like knew that the PS2 was coming. Like they were PlayStation 1 gamers. The PlayStation 2 was well on its way. Sony was advertising the PlayStation 2 basically. So the Dreamcast never really had a shot. But for those of us who did check it out and did play it, there were just a ton of classic games. Rez, Ikaruga. I mean, what else came out? Power Stone 1 and 2. There was a huge number of really fantastic games that came out, and it was an amazing experience. It was a short-lived but hot experience. It was a brief summertime romance.
Yeah, I had a buddy that had it, and he only had like the burned games.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure we just played like Crazy Taxi and maybe a couple of the fighting games.
Yeah, there was a ton of fighting games. They were the best version because they were arcade perfect versions of the fighting games too, which the PlayStation couldn't do because it didn't have the memory to actually like load all the frames of animation. Like, so if you played Marvel vs. Capcom, you make a team of fighters, and you can switch the fighters out on the fly, or you can do like kind of combo moves where you're playing with one fighter and another fighter comes on the screen, does a move, and then jumps back off. And on the PlayStation, you could only select one fighter. You couldn't switch between them on the fly, and so there was no like tag team. And then you could either have a fighter that would help you with a super, or a fighter that would jump on the screen to do like a special move. So it was like a severely reduced version of that game. So fighting game fans were huge fans of the Dreamcast. There's also Capcom vs. SNK. There were the Street Fighter. I believe Street Fighter 3 came out on Dreamcast.
Alpha, I think.
Alpha definitely came out. Alpha 3, maybe? I don't know. I'd have to look at the Street Fighters. I've been playing, like, Street Fighter is a weird thing. I play it on the Mister only right now because I'm playing the arcade versions. So I don't really play, like, even if I have them on Dreamcast, I wouldn't play them on Dreamcast because I'd just rather play the arcade version.
There's three Street Fighter 3s on Dreamcast. Street Fighter 3 Double Impact, Street Fighter 3
Third Strike. Yeah.
And Alpha 3.
I think I got Third Strike on the Xbox as well when that came out. I don't know. Really cool. The Dreamcast was an amazing console, and it lived a very short life. But those of us who were there for it, or who played it at the time, a lot of people have very strong feelings for the system because of the high quality software that came out for it in the short time that it was alive.
I mean, they had decent third-party support too.
Yeah, Capcom heavily supported it. EA did not support it, and that led to Sega Sports doing their own NFL, NBA. Did they ever do NHL? I don't know if they did NHL. They definitely did baseball. But I remember seeing NFL 2K in a commercial for the first time and not being able to distinguish it. I swear to God, not being able to distinguish it from like an actual football game. Like actual football, like live video. Like it was that impressive at the time. Obviously, there's caveats to that. TV technology at the time was not nearly as good as it is now. It was a commercial, so they're only showing the best, stuff. But I mean, it was a huge jump.
There were a couple of NHL games for Dreamcast, actually.
Were there?
2K and 2K2, and then there was like an all-star version of 2K.
There's also TNN Hardcore Motorsports. Very good. Very good.
He's holding back a chuckle. When was the last time you played a hockey game?
I actually downloaded on Game. What's that Xbox? Game Pass. Game Pass. They just added EA's game service too, and along with that came NHL '94. That was originally released on the Sega Genesis, but they ported it to play on the Game Pass subscription, so you can play it on an Xbox One. So I was playing that for probably half an hour, I don't know, last month or so.
Wasn't that part of, it was like a special release part of one of the, was it like 2021 or 2020 or something? Didn't they say, we're including NHL 94 in your whatever?
Yeah, but if you go to Xbox Game Pass, it's on there.
Right. So you didn't even play like a newer NHL game. You played NHL 94.
I stopped with the best one. They maxed out how good an NHL game could be. So I just stopped getting new ones.
I remember playing NHL hockey on like my Windows 3.1 machine with my brother back in the day. Yeah, that was fun.
Hockey is a fun video game sport.
Yeah. It's a lot more fun to play it than it is to watch. At least for me.
Yeah. Hockey games are fun to go to in person, but they're not fun to watch on TV. Remember when they added like the blue puck thing behind, like so you could actually follow the puck on TV? Because it's like literally you couldn't see the puck on TV. So they added like a blue streak. Where is it? I can't see it. Yeah.
It's so small.
It's fun to go to a hockey game. It's not much fun to watch it on TV unless you're like super into it. But hockey is a fun video game sport because it's fast. There's a lot of hitting. Like there's a lot of like brutal action. It's also a very fluid moving sport. So it's a fun game to play in video game form, assuming it's done well. I haven't heard good things about the most recent NHL games, but that may have to do with the fact that I believe that the NHL is one of those licenses that EA is like kind of locked up. So there can only be one video game for this sport with this branding. So it only has to be so good because you don't have a choice.
Well,
Consumers don't have a choice.
Yeah, and now your goalie is Ford McGuffleby. Yay.
Yeah.
Why didn't they ever make a Blitz hockey? Like, I'm thinking about it.
Did they not?
Like, I used to love the Blitz games.
That surprises me that they didn't. NHL Blitz? They never made one?
No, it was literally just NFL Blitz. There was never any other Blitz games.
They made a version of it for basketball as well. It wasn't called
like
Blitz.
NBA Street.
Might have been called Street. No, that was something else because there was also an NFL Street, wasn't there?
Yeah,
but those were kind of fun games too. They were arcadey games. I don't remember Blitz. Do you remember when Blitz the League came out? And it was
dude,
there was like a story
played the
mode.
Crap out of League in League 2.
Yeah, that was fun.
My buddy and I would play it, and for those who have never played Blitz the League, it's pretty incredible. There's no licensed players, which sucks.
They couldn't have though, because of the content of that story. Like they talk about steroids, they talk about like career-ending injuries.
Yeah, like if you put GTA and football together. That's what the league is.
Yeah.
But when you're playing the games and you get a big hit on somebody, there's like a little mini game that happens where you have to like absolutely mash the button as fast as you can and get this little wheel to go boop. And if you get it all the way to the end, it takes your hit and magnifies it, and you do things like destroy somebody's collarbone, or like if you give somebody concussion, it shows like an X-ray of their head, like hitting the brain hitting the back of the skull. And there's one where the scrotum like explodes and your sperm goes everywhere. It's like, what the?
I'm
what
impregnated myself.
Ugh. Yeah, the collarbone breaking, it like shows an X-ray of the collarbone just going and just like blood going everywhere inside the person's body.
I remember those
amazing.
games being pretty good and pretty popular. I believe there was like pressure put on by the NFL to stop making those. I'm not exactly sure how that played out. I heard that from Jeff Gerstmann was telling that story one time on the Giant Bombcast.
Really?
About how there was like the NFL really didn't like that game went where it did. And there was like pressure from the NFL to make them stop doing that. And I can't remember exactly, because that license originally started off as NFL Blitz, right? The arcade games were officially licensed by the NFL. And then EA had tied up the NFL license, so they were the only people who could make NFL games. And they just made Madden every year, once a year. And that's how we reminisce. How did we go? We went from Dreamcast controllers to NFL Blitz.
Because we started talking about sports, and then my brain was going like, "You're talking about hits and hockey," and I was like, "Man, they never made like a Blitz hockey. It'd be fun."
They should.
Like, yeah, like no real penalties for hitting people and stuff. That's
yeah. It for a football video game. That's fun. Right? Like,
right.
You don't need the penalties in a video game. You don't have to, it's like the most fun part of a driving game isn't the part where you get a ticket for driving too fast.
I was thinking about like a track racer. It's like, oh yeah, I get to go in left circles all day. It's like, no, you get to try to flip the person in front of you and make them spin out.
Yeah. So what else have we got for news this week? Anything good?
There was a few things that I thought were interesting. Apparently, the newest kind of hack up of an N64 is currently the smallest N64 console ever created.
Interesting.
And by the video, it looks like it's, I don't know, the size of, the Switch controllers where you like take out the Joy-Con and you put them in a little plastic holder thing.
Yeah.
That's about how big the N64 is, and it has a screen built in to that space. It almost looks like a Dreamcast controller, kind of where the VMU is the screen.
That's incredible. How did they do this? Is this original hardware that they just like crammed into this thing, or did they?
Yeah, it's like all original hardware where he takes out each piece and he like resolders it and rewires it into a smaller circuit board.
Oh wow.
So he's like hacking up the like original N64, I believe. So this video is done by G-Man, and his YouTube is GMad Mods with a Z. And the video says world's smallest Nintendo 64 portable, and it came out on December 23rd. And it kind of just shows, like, literally in that video, it shows the process of what he did. Pretty cool.
Yeah, the thing is tiny.
And he's done a few different versions of it. One of them looks like a more usable. This one, like, it's not. He's literally talking about how uncomfortable it is to use. He made a previous one that looks like a giant Game Boy SP, which looks a lot more comfortable. But he basically, because of the form factor of the thing, he couldn't get all of the buttons for the controllers, so he had to have kind of secondary functions for some of the buttons where you had to press a button and then you'd press like the Joy-Con up or something like that, and it would function like a C button.
The thing is, the width of an N64 cartridge in the like,
right?
It looks like maybe it's like double or triple the depth of one. Does he ever give,
like look at his hands when he's playing it. It does not look comfortable. He's like all it almost looks like he's trying to play with the claw, like when you're
Yeah, it's like twice the width. It's twice the depth of a cartridge. So like if you stack 2 cartridges on top of each other for the N64, that's essentially how big it is.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then it's got a color screen and 2 joysticks, couple of buttons. That's amazing. If you made it just a little bit bigger and had all the buttons, like I'd buy one.
If you
you know?
Towards the end of the video, he shows like right at 6 minutes, he shows a picture of the one that looks like an SP, and it's like he's actually kind of like it's like a full controller and then a fold-up screen.
I like that one better.
It almost looks like the old GameCube screens that you could take with your GameCube.
I keep waiting for somebody to make a portable unit out of the Mister. I feel like a portable Mister unit. I mean, it'd essentially be like the Analog Pocket, but not from Analog. A Mister would be amazing. Portable.
It would use cartridges, or would it use ROMs?
ROMs.
I mean, they have a bunch of portable handhelds like that you can.
Yeah, but they all run like shitty, like cheapo Android processors, like ARM processors. The difference with Mister is it's emulating the actual hardware. It's like playing the game. It's indistinguishable from playing the actual hardware. Aside from the video quality, it just looks miles better.
I mean, do you think that, considering the Analog Pocket with its popularity, you don't think that Mister is already potentially working on something like that?
Well, Mister is a funny thing because it's using like off the shelf parts in ways that were never intended by the people who make them. So like a Mister, if you buy a Mister board, like it's made by, I can't remember the name of the company, like Altera or something, where you can just buy these things for like $130 off Amazon. And they're just like these dev kits that people use to like mock up other things. But what the Mister community has done is just repurpose this, along with like adding USB support and I/O support into being able to do this, gaming stuff. But it was never intended to do that, and it's like that's not like if you look for the DE10 Nano, which is the DE10 Nano, I think it's called the DE10 Nano on Amazon, which is the processor that this thing is built off of. You'd never know, like, you could play video games on it. It's just like, it's this open source project that people are working on. So there's no, like, if it ever happened, it would be like somebody has to 3D print the cases, and you have to buy the parts from one place. You have to get the 3D printed case from another place, you get the screen from another place. Probably along those lines.
So, yeah, it would have to probably be another company that came out with some investments and stuff similar to what Analog does, or a Kickstarter maybe.
Yeah.
Where somebody has the idea and they want to get the backing for it. Because I don't think Analog's going to do anything like that, because they want everything they've done up to this point has used original cartridges or discs with the Duo.
Well, yes and no. I mean, you can easily go onto their forums and get the firmware update that allows you to play ROMs. And it says unofficial firmware, but it's written by the same fucking guy who wrote the official firmware. Yeah.
So do you have to put like an EverDrive in it, or
no? You just put a card in. What do you call them? The camera
memory
cards.
Card?
Yeah.
Where do you stick a memory card in my Analog?
It's got a slot on the side. All of them have a slot.
What?
You didn't know this? I'm surprised.
No. Oh my god. How the hell did I miss that?
I think it's the Atari. If you just Google real quick, Analog, either NT MG or NT Mini unofficial firmware, you'll find that Smoke Monster has posted it, I believe, on the Atari Age forums. Smoke Monster gets them directly from Kevtris, who's the developer of the Analog systems.
Blowing my mind. Stuff I didn't know for 700.
Yeah, the NT Mini actually has, you can play Genesis games on.
So my brain's trying to figure out how this works. So it's an analog is emulating hardware. So then if you stick a memory card in there with the stuff, you're emulating hardware, emulating software.
No, you're actually reprogramming the FPGA. The chip inside of there is called a field programmable gate array. It's not like a normal processor that just runs software. You actually program the chip to act as a different chip. So if you could program it to be an NES, you can also program it to be an Atari or a Sega Genesis, and that's what they do. So the same chip that they use to emulate the Nintendo Entertainment System inside of the analog NT Mini, using unofficial firmware, and I use unofficial firmware in the biggest of air quotes because it's literally written by the same guy. And I think the only reason it's called unofficial firmware is because they don't want to get into legal trouble by allowing people to run ROMs on this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But once you do that, you can load ROMs onto an SD card and run ROMs for obviously a Nintendo Entertainment System. But they also have cores that will program that chip to be a Sega Genesis, an Atari, a bunch of different things. I don't know the full list of them off the top of my head, but there's probably 6 or 7 different consoles. The same thing goes with the analog SG and the NT. You can load ROMs onto those. You can also emulate other consoles. Like the analog SG, which is the Sega Genesis one, you can program it to be a Game Gear, a Master System, probably some other stuff too.
How well does it run the ROMs on it?
Perfectly.
Because, the thing about ROMs when I look into them, there's always some kind of thing that goes wrong, or maybe it loads weird or whatever. If you're trying to like emulate on a PC, it always feels weird.
This isn't the same thing. I mean, the ROMs are the same ROMs, but assuming the ROM you have is a good dump, and it's not hard to find an archive, so to speak, on the internet, or an internet archive of ROMs. Where there are very good full sets of ROMs for many, many consoles. So if you were to find such a archive on the internet, you could just download like the full set of all the NES games, and then there's even tools that you can verify that the ROMs are good, that they are 100% accurate ROMs. But for stuff, to be honest, like we're going to talk about Castlevania later. And there is a certain thrill about plugging the cartridge into the cartridge slot of the NES, right? Like actually inserting that cartridge and grabbing an NES controller and being like, okay, I am now going to play some Castlevania, right? Mm-hmm. Where you don't get the same kind of deliberateness when you just like turn on a Mister and start scrolling through ROMs. What game do I feel like playing, right? I feel like it's similar to the difference of like getting a record off the shelf, pulling it out of the dust cover and placing it on the record, on the turntable, placing the needle onto the record and start hearing that like kind of like hiss of the dirt on the record, closing the plastic cover and like sitting down to listen to this record, right? Mm-hmm. There's a deliberateness, there's a mindfulness to what I am doing that I don't get when I pull my phone out of my pocket, I select a random playlist and just let music start playing. You know what I mean? It's not, right. I'm listening to music in both circumstances, but I'm doing it with a different purpose and with a different feeling. So like when we're talking about Castlevania, to me, it's just a cooler thing it's not cooler. It's just a different feeling to plug a cartridge into. In my case, I use the Analog NT Mini. I plug it in, it boots up. I'm not going to scroll through 18 games tonight. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to concentrate on beating Castlevania. I'm going to play Castlevania. That's why I'm sitting down. Not to play a video game or 18 video games, but to play Castlevania. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I will say, and to your, because you said it a few weeks ago, You don't get as much satisfaction with the NT Mini Noir because it's just so janky to put the cartridge in that system.
Yeah.
So like every time I put the cartridge in, I'm using two hands and I'm very gently. And like every time I put the card in, I feel like I'm gonna break something.
Yeah.
I'm like, is it seated properly? And I'm like, chunk, and I'm like, is that right? Hopefully that's right.
Yeah. For a $500 device, I think that cartridge slot is a huge fucking problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I suspect that they're going to release like a $200 more plastic version of the NES at some point, and I for sure hope that they're going to fix that cartridge slot in a big way, because it is. I mean, like I was just talking about like the whole process of putting like the record player, like pulling the record off the shelf, taking it out of the sleeve. Maybe you blow off the dust. Like this whole process is part of the enjoyment of listening to that record, right? You put it on the turntable. You click the switch to get it turning in the right speed. You carefully pick the needle arm up off the little holder, and you place it down gently on the record, and you hear that little static hiss for the first time. Like all of those things are part of the enjoyment of listening to a record. And it's the same thing with playing an NES game. It's like, pulling that cartridge off the shelf. Maybe if you're an awful person, you blow into the the slot to clean it off and get your germs all in there. You open the door of the NES, like if you have the front loader, the toaster version, you plug it in, you slide it in, and then you push down on the cartridge itself and kind of hear that click, and then you push the power button and you see your game come up. Like all these things are part of the enjoyment of that NES game, even though the bulk of your enjoyment is going to come from actually like sitting there with the controller in your hand and playing the game. Like these are the things that, like all those little bits and pieces leading up to seeing that Castlevania flip up on the screen, those are the parts that make buying the hardware and the cartridges worth it. I can get all the enjoyment of playing the game on my Mister, right? I don't have to go out searching for the games. I have every game on my Mister, all of them. Right? There's no game made before 1994 that I don't have on my Mister. But I played Castlevania on the cartridge because all those pieces added to the enjoyment of playing the game for me. And that's not true for everybody, but it is for me. And the fact that they fucked that part up on the analog NT Mini for $500 is fucking inexcusable.
It's a little rough. Is there any talk about it? Do you see any rumblings in the...
I mean, what's going to happen? They made one final run. I don't think they're going to fix it. You're not going to send your console in to get it fixed, and they're not going to make it anymore, so then they're not going to put any engineering into fixing it. My suspicion is
there any... is there any like of the audience, like the consumers, that are upset about it, or is it just us?
I haven't put any thought into like looking for it.
Sure.
I don't know, to be honest. Anyhow,
I was gonna say something, I forgot what it was. I was gonna like...
I'm sure there's a way to fix it. Like if you 3D printed like some kind of like a surround for that cartridge slot, I'm sure you could fix it. But I don't know that there's going to be... I'm not going to put that kind of effort into it because I don't have a 3D printer and I don't know how to design, 3D things in CAD. So it's not something I can do. There's plenty of creative and genius people out there making all sorts of cool stuff in the retro gaming world. I just saw... I was just at a website the other day where I saw, a lot of people add high definition to their original NES, right? They add the high def NES kit. And one of the things that they do is they have to cut a rectangular hole in the back of the NES. So what they've done is they've 3D printed this little bracket that makes it look like it actually belongs there instead of just being like a dremeled out hole. Stuff like that. But I don't know. Somebody could make something like that. I don't know if there's the will or the way. I don't know if anybody's willing to do it, put their time into that.
Right.
Maybe if they were planning on making these things more, but they're not.
Well, yeah, like now they on the horizon they have the Pocket, which they're currently dealing with, and then the Duo as well. So,
yeah, you gonna buy the Duo?
I mean, I will because now I have games.
Yeah. I saw that you picked up Legendary Axe, right?
Yes. Spoiler alert. I did. All good. So, I mean, I got that Japanese PC Engine Duo in box, and I had no intention of getting it. Just happened to like a deal fell in my lap, and I picked it up. I don't really want to hook that up, on an analog system and try to deal with that. So having a Duo now that I have some TurboGrafx games, I probably will pick up the Duo. It just makes more
Yeah.
sense from because they said it was like 200 or $250 or something like that.
Yeah, something near there. Yeah.
So it's not exorbitant, and it makes it a lot more approachable and feasible to play and stream and stuff. So
Yeah. I'm not sure I'm going to pick that one up because I have like 4 TurboGrafx games, but I already have the Mister that has all the TurboGrafx games plus all the TurboGrafx CD games. And I'm not real interested in collecting TurboGrafx games because it's an expensive system to collect for. So I'm like, what do I actually gain by buying this thing? I'm gonna be playing ROMs on it anyway, and I'm already doing that on my Mister. So really, it's just gonna be a piece of plastic that probably sits there and goes unused, like my actual TurboGrafx 16,
right.
which I rarely ever use.
I mean, the one thing that I will say is that analog systems retain their value really well. So if you
Yeah,
used it for a while and you're just like, it's just sitting on a shelf and you resell it, you're probably not losing much.
yeah. I wonder if that will continue though. I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic, which is I believe it's very much responsible for the high prices of everything that is related to electronics, video games, anything that you can use at home basically is out of stock. And I
Right.
wonder, like, once the world returns to normal, once the vaccine is kind of widespread and everybody's back to work, back to doing stuff outside, I wonder if not only will used video game prices come back down to reason, but I wonder if like things like the resale market for like analog systems and stuff like that will go back to kind of pre-COVID reasonable places
Could
again.
be. I bet to your point, the Duo probably won't have that much of a resale value, but something like the Pocket still will.
I wonder, like, are they gonna have the Pocket like for sale on the regular, or are they gonna do like a limited run of these things? I really have no idea what they're doing with the Pocket.
Yeah. I mean,
It seems
I
like
don't
it's
think that they're
enough
gonna
demand for it.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna produce enough. They might do like limited runs, but do more of them. If there's enough
Yeah,
demand, they might be like, all right, we're doing another one, and then like it sells out in 10 minutes, and they're like, all right, we're doing another one.
yeah. I wonder if it'll
Sells
be a
out.
situation more like a new console launch where it's really hard to get for the first year, and then after that, it's prices come down to normal.
Maybe.
I
I
hope
mean, it's
I hope
really
that's how it
their
goes.
right. It's their first release that has this much demand, so it's unprecedented right now. So
Yeah,
even the NT Noir was available for pre-order for at least a week. I was very surprised by that. Every time I checked it, I was like, it's still available.
yeah. Well, it's $500.
So right. But a lot of people bought them to resell and are very surprised. It's funny because like on eBay, they're not going for more than like 600,
No,
and after fees and shipping and stuff, the person buying and selling them might have made 10 or $20. It's like, is it really worth it?
I just put a couple of bids in on a PlayStation 1. PlayStation 1 with a HDMI out and a optical disc emulator. Both of those
Mm,
mods had been done to this thing. I was like, and it was up, the starting bid was $140. And like, it's probably $200 worth of modifications alone, plus the labor to do all the mods. It's
right.
probably like legitimately worth like $300 to $400. But I didn't win.
What did it go for?
I think last time I checked, it was at like $230.
Ah,
And I was
is it like the big chunky PS1 or the
yeah,
PS1, the
the original PlayStation.
chunky boy?
Yeah.
I really want to get a consoleized version of the Virtual Boy. Like
Yeah.
I have the full Virtual Boy NA collection, and I have no real way to play it because I'm not going to sit behind my Virtual Boy and play it and like ruin my eyes.
Yeah.
So I want
Does anybody
some
make
kind
one?
of. There are people like literally my retro game store has one for sale, but it's like $500 or
Mm.
$600.
Yeah, I would imagine they're going to be expensive.
And I'm sure it's analog only, so you just like hook it up to a TV, you know. but it makes it so you can actually play your games. But the whole niche of Virtual Boy is that they're 3D, and so it's not 3D too. So it's like, what's the point? But there are a few games on there that are only available on Virtual Boy.
Yeah.
That are worth playing, like Wario Land.
That's an opinion. That's just your opinion, man.
Do you know? I mean, like it's rated as one of the better like platforming games Nintendo's made in that era. And then there's also Jack Bros, which is a game. It's like a puzzle game type thing that is not available anywhere else.
There's some really expensive games for that too. The Virtual Boy.
Yeah, Jack Bros is the one.
That's the big one.
There's a few that are like Waterworld is expensive, even though I'm pretty sure it's a terrible game.
Have you ever put your face inside your Virtual Boy and tried to use it? Like, have you ever done it?
Yeah.
What'd you think of it?
I've played it before. I mean, it's interesting. It's kind of like playing a 3DS for the first time. It's fun for like 10 minutes, and then you're like, oh, my head hurts and my eyes hurt, and it's like the gimmick goes away really quickly.
Yeah.
But it's a technological marvel, and
wow, that's a broad use of that word.
At that time, in 1994 or whenever it came out, like nothing had been created like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there were
definitely 3D headsets at the time. Like you could go to arcades and they had 3D headsets.
Arcade, not home.
Not home. Yeah.
So I mean, like from a usability standpoint, it was pretty janky, the design and stuff. But I mean, like from a technology standpoint, I'm trying to give it the respect it deserves, Briar.
I feel like you're giving it too much respect. I feel like the story of the Virtual Boy has gained quite a bit of respect over the years that is not really deserved.
I don't know why I have this weird love for the Virtual Boy. I own 4 Virtual Boys. 3 of them I'm going to be selling. So I started buying them like 6-7 years ago, and I would like go on eBay and nobody gave a shit. Nobody cared about them at this point.
Yeah.
Even not very long ago. And I would pick up a Virtual Boy and like a bunch of accessories and like 3 or 4 games for like $100 to $150. And that was a deal then. Like I was getting a deal. But now a Virtual Boy in working condition goes for like $200. The games go from between, $30 and $500 for Jack Bros. But it's a very unique system that there wasn't very many made, and just it was a very technologically advanced thing in its heyday, even though it was like a terrible, like the way that you had to play it and just you couldn't play with friends and all that is,
Did you know that the same guy who invented the Virtual Boy or designed the Virtual Boy, he also made the original Game Boy, possibly the best-selling Nintendo, like one of the most popular Nintendo things of all time. And upon releasing the Virtual Boy, he was dismissed from Nintendo.
Well, no, he quit. He resigned. He thought that the failure of the Virtual Boy was like solely his responsibility, and he resigned. And then he went and worked for whatever company, and he was responsible for the Wonder Swan.
Yeah. Which was much better than the Virtual Boy, but still not what I would call a hit.
There's a documentary that I watched recently that covered that whole arc, that topic. I think actually it may have been the Game Boy Work Boy thing might have touched on that.
Okay.
Maybe. Because he also might have been working on that Work Boy. I can't remember. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but I don't remember.
What else we got for news today?
What's that?
What else we got for news today? Anything good? Can we talk about Castlevania yet?
There's just like 2 more things. One is not really that big a deal for me, but for folks that like to buy new games on cartridge, for anybody who knows Dragonborn, which is created by Spacebot Interactive, they're coming out with a new game called Dedeus, Deedeus, for the Game Boy. So you can actually buy the cartridge, and I might have put the wrong link there. I did. Okay. So it's one of those things, kind of like limited, whatever it's called.
Limited run,
where they come out with a cartridge and whatnot. But this is actually like a first party original game, and the kind of synopsis of the game, I believe, is that you're like dreaming. I'm trying to remember. I like read it very quickly. And the game basically has like a whole bunch of different endings and all this stuff. And it looked really interesting for those. It's like an 8-bit horror adventure.
On the
There's
Game
a bunch
Boy.
of different endings.
Is it black and white?
Yeah,
Is it at least Game Boy Color?
No, it's on the original Game Boy. No, it's like
green pea soup, brand new pea soup horror game. I'm sure it's terrifying.
So, I mean, but I don't know. I think it's cool that people are creating new software for old hardware.
I do too. This is a lot like that Paprium game that we were talking about last week,
Right.
or 2 weeks ago. That was a brand new game created for the Genesis. Did you see Limited Run? Speaking of Limited Run, is offering a reproduction of Scat, SCAT for the NES.
Say that again.
They're also coming out with a reproduction or a physical copy of what's that movie called? Scott Pilgrim Saves the Planet, Saves the Universe.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
the one that was on 360 originally. Is it that game?
Yeah, like it got delisted off 360. It hasn't been available in like 10 years, and Limited Run is putting out a physical copy for the Switch. I think tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. Didn't they pull it from the store or something like that?
Yeah, they lost the rights to the movie license, so they couldn't sell it anymore. But apparently, they got the rights back, and they're releasing a physical copy on the Switch.
Pretty cool.
Which I'm sure we'll see.
I mean, that was a fun game.
Yeah, it was okay, right? It was a kind of fun beat 'em up.
I liked the game more than the movie.
I liked the movie quite a bit. The movie hasn't held up to multiple viewings over the years as much as I would have hoped it did, but the first time I watched it, I thought it was really fun and really inventive.
Really?
Yeah.
Apparently, Limited Run's is 5th year anniversary is this year.
Oh, good for
Go
them.
to their website. There's like a big old logo on the top.
Talk to me about some Street Fighter 2 Alpha 2.
So it's not even a game that I've played very much, but apparently there has been a new cheat code discovered on the original cartridge.
That's
that
funny.
Was
for the Super
previously
Nintendo.
Unknown. So they've been reverse engineering. I don't know why specifically this game, but they reverse engineered this game and found that you could play as, who was it? Akuma, but it was like Shin Akuma, like kind of a different version of Akuma with like a different color set.
Oh, no kidding.
And you had to beat the game with a new high score, and then you enter in the initials KAJ, and then you return to the title screen and hold down L, X, and Y and start buttons on the controller.
Jeez, I can't believe that never came up naturally. It seems like
I mean, the internet wasn't a thing. Maybe somebody found it out, but nobody ever, you know what I mean, spread it around. Nobody ever communicated it.
That's weird.
So
I mean, it's cool that they had a new character. Have you ever played the Street Fighter Alpha 2 for the Super Nintendo? I've heard it's a really good, it's like a really amazing port that is like kind of an incredible game for the Super Nintendo. Like, it's incredible what they pulled off, but I've never actually played it.
I am one of those people who I own it again, and I've never played it.
Oh, no kidding. It's not a cheap game either. It's like a $40, $50 game, right?
I don't think it's that expensive.
No?
Hold on.
Because most Street Fighter games usually aren't too expensive because they're so popular. They're a dime a dozen to find any cartridge.
Oh yeah, I guess it is. It's like $40 for the cart.
Alpha 2 though came out pretty late in the Super Nintendo's life, and is a pretty impressive port like that because that's based on CPS 2. It's not CPS 1. It's a relatively, there's a lot of characters in it too. I would like to buy that Super Nintendo game, even though I'll probably never play it like you, because Street Fighter Alpha is my favorite Street Fighter Alpha 3 specifically. But I'd prefer to play the arcade version over a Super Nintendo version.
Right.
You know?
So what was you just said Street Fighter Alpha 3. What system was that for? Was that Dreamcast?
I like to play the arcade version.
Right. Is the Dreamcast version not that close?
I don't know that I know the answer to that, to be honest with you. The first version I believe I ever played extensively was actually for the PSP.
Oh, right. I know exactly what you're talking about.
And then I later bought. That's where I kind of started to fall in love with it. And then I later bought the Street Fighter collection for the Switch, which has got like every Street Fighter game up to Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, I believe. And that's where I kind of like, I really realized how much I really loved Alpha 3. Because I like the Street Fighter 3 series, but I don't like the characters as much as the original characters in Street Fighter. But I do like the characters in Street Fighter Alpha a lot, like the new characters they brought in. So I think that's where I realized that Street Fighter Alpha 3 was my favorite. I never played Street Fighter Alpha on a SNES. I mean, that came out, I believe, well after like the newer consoles were out. It was a late.
I'll have to plug it in and try it out.
Yeah, I kind of want to check it out now too, just to see what it's like.
And you're just mentioning like fighting games on the PSP. It reminds me of how many good fighting games were on the PSP.
Yeah,
I remember playing Darksiders, I believe, or was Dark something?
Yeah, Darksiders is right. I don't know, that series actually they've named a few different things.
No, it wasn't Darksiders. That's
Darkstalkers.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I was like Dark something.
I believe Darksiders and Darkstalkers are different names for the same game. Just it's a region thing.
Darkstriders or Darksiders is like this adventure type game that was on 360, and they have 3 of them now.
Oh, Vampire Hunter? Did they call him Vampire Hunter in Japan? Or is that might actually be Castlevania, which I really want to talk about. Can we talk about Castlevania yet?
Yeah. Darkstalkers was a great game though. I don't know.
Yeah, Darkstalkers. There's 3 of those, right? 3 Darkstalkers games.
I believe so.
Maybe there was 2. I don't actually know.
There was only 1 on the PSP though.
The PSP was a great system.
Yeah.
It was way better than the PS Vita. PS Vita gets a lot of love, but it's not. Most of it is only because the hardware was good. That library is stinky dude.
There's a lot of really good JRPGs, and there's a lot of stuff that North America doesn't like ever play.
Yeah. All right. Anyhow, let's talk some Castlevania. So tonight's game club is Castlevania 1 for the NES. This is kind of a unique Castlevania. Like if you are a fan of the Metroidvania games, like this isn't for you. This is a level-based game. You go through levels sequentially. You never get a new weapon. You can upgrade your whip. You can get side weapons. So I guess you can get new weapons. You can get kind of like side weapons, but it's a game that very much is inspired by the Universal monster movies of like, I guess that was the 30s, 40s, and 50s they were making those movies where it's, you got Dracula, you got Frankenstein, you got the Mummy, you got a bat, you got Medusa. Like it's those kinds of enemies. It very much feels like an homage towards like these movie monsters of the past. It even has like this kind of like film strip motif going on. And it's a brutally difficult side scroller for the NES, and it's frankly, I think, one of the best games that ever came out for the NES.
It's funny because I had never really given it more than 20 minutes playtime when I was a kid.
Yeah. Why is that?
And I just never really, it wasn't a game that we played very often.
No.
Well, I mean, we didn't own it. We didn't really own very many games. We just never rented it. It was like, I think if I played it, it was at a friend's house,
mm-hmm.
And I was terrible at it. And everybody's like, all right, scoot over. It's my turn. It's like, okay, I don't know where all the secret things are. And so, yeah.
My buddy Jesse had it when I was a kid. So I'd go over to his house and we'd play it. And he was much better at it than I was. Obviously, it was his game. So I mostly just watched him play it. But he liked playing Simon's Quest more than this game because it was newer and he hadn't figured out all the stuff of it. So my recollection of this game as a child wasn't much. But as an adult, this is the game that kind of reignited my love of retro gaming because when the Switch port came out last year, was it last year or was it 2019? It might have actually released in 2019. They released the Castlevania collection for the Switch, and it includes Castlevania 1, 2, 3, Castlevania 4, a couple of the Game Boy Adventure games, and I think Kid Dracula. So I just started playing some of those, and I immediately got addicted to playing Castlevania because there's just this game offers so much that is just brilliant. The music, you cannot talk about Castlevania without talking about the music. The music is amazing. I mean, it is some of the most iconic songs that have ever been in video games. You can play Castlevania music in like a grocery store, and you're gonna get 5 people that say, "Hey, who's playing Castlevania music?" Because it's so recognizable. It's so distinctive to Castlevania. It manages to be creepy. It fits the mood of like a horror setting. But it kind of gets you pumped up. It's fast paced, like it's exciting music to listen to. It's really wonderful. The atmosphere and the mood of the game itself. Graphically, I think it's a really good looking NES games. But they also do a really good job of setting the mood for the game itself. Like there's parts where you're like walking across a bridge and you can see the moon in the distance. Like you get a feeling for like the progression of like I started at the gates of this castle. And I'm slowly like making my way inside the castle toward Dracula's lair, beating these bosses. It's a wonderfully crafted game by a guy who clearly like loved movies, loved these old monster movies.
Well, they don't even know who made the game.
I think they do. They do know now who made the game. He was, and I'm sorry I don't remember his name. Obviously, it's a Japanese name. But he did do one interview like way back in the day where he acknowledged that he made the game. But he was actually let go of Konami after making the game. And he ended up like just basically disappearing. But then a friend of his had tweeted some of the conversations that he had in 2019. I read this. I just watched, there's Slope's Game Room YouTube channel just did an excellent Castlevania video on Sunday. Like just randomly, it came out on this Sunday. So if you go to Slope's, I think it's SLOPES Game Room, he did an excellent retrospective of the Castlevania story where he mentions both the name of the gentleman who was in charge of making this game, which was, it's fair to say was unknown because he's not credited in the game. They use like just fake names in the credits when the credits roll after you beat the game, which is supposed to be funny, but it's really just corporate bullshit by Konami because they didn't want any of their talent getting poached.
Right.
It turns out Konami's always been a shitty company. We just didn't know it because we were kids.
Well, that was the normal thing back then. There's a few games even already that I think that we've talked about or at least back in Atari too, it was kind of similar where they didn't
like to. That's bullshit.
Yeah. Did they know who the rest of the team was?
I think they know who did the music and they know who did the lead programmer. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's a largely uncredited game. It's the early Castlevania games are funny in that way, is that even though they all have similar threads, like you can see how they got to Castlevania 2 from Castlevania 1, and you can see how Castlevania 3 was kind of a return to Castlevania 1, but they were all made by different people. And like Castlevania 1 was one of the best-selling NES games. So like by any modern metric, you would immediately say, okay, you made this awesome game, make another one. But Konami just didn't work like that at the time for whatever reason.
I mean, to your point, they like foreshadowed Simon's Quest at the end when you beat Dracula, and his body explodes and goes in different pieces. Apparently, those are the pieces that you discover in Simon's Quest.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I watched YouTube videos on stuff too. I can't remember who covered that.
That's cool. It took me a long time to beat Castlevania. It took me so the first time I really like took an attempt at it. I mean, I was pretty proud of myself for beating it because it was literally like a quest that was like 35 years in the making for me. Like I'd literally started playing that game when it was new, and obviously I didn't play it all the way through, but like for every day since. But like it was really cool to play it and beat it, and that's kind of ignited my love of retro gaming since then because I had so much fun playing Castlevania. Like what else is out there that I could be having fun playing? And like, I've gone on to get mildly obsessive about it.
What on earth do you mean?
But like, I love all the boss fights because they all feel like individual and fun. And like when you first attempt them, unless you like know the trick, because there's always like a trick in these boss fights. I just posted a few days ago a video of me beating the Medusa boss, just kind of like to tease tonight's episode. And you can see all I did was I threw the holy water at her and just like kind of stun locked her. And the holy water is good for most of the bosses because it stun locks the bosses so they don't attack you. You can just basically burn them down really quick. But if you don't know that, if you don't know the secrets of these bosses and these special weapons, they can be really difficult. The Grim Reaper, I've heard, has been like a stopping point for a lot of people because he flies around in a semi-random pattern and also throws like crosses at you in a semi-random pattern. So you have to navigate these crosses and try and hit him. But again, you can use the holy water to just stun lock him before he even moves and destroy
literally
him
where I
quickly.
stopped this morning when I was playing it. More because of
Reaper?
time, and I was like, I'm done.
But the Dracula fight in particular is a little different because you really have to. You can definitely cheese the boss again with holy water. Holy water is the best weapon in this game, but you still have to actually time it out, and you have to be good enough at the game to beat his first phase because you have to like kind of whip him in the face while jumping over his fireball attack. And it can be relatively difficult. Even if you know the trick, it can be very difficult. And then once you've done that, then you have to beat his second phase, which is like this kind of Cookie Monster looking thing. And if you have the holy water, you can do that pretty easily. But it's very satisfying. It's one of those games with kind of that limited jump. You can only jump in one way. You can't reverse direction in air. And once you've committed to a jump, you just got to like go through it. But there's also this knockback mechanic. So anytime you get hit, your character gets knocked back about half as far as you can jump. And that can happen if you're standing on the ground or if you're jumping, which I think probably the hardest thing about this game is getting knocked off of ledges and falling to your doom, right? Like how often do you die from health compared to how often you die from getting killed? Like knocked off of something, right?
It got to a point when I was playing where if I died within the first stage of a new area, if I died in that area, I would just continuously die until I got my lives back because I didn't want to start my attempt one life down 5 minutes in,
Yeah.
But, yeah. By the way, did you know that holy water is not actually called holy water?
No, what's it called?
Firebomb.
I disagree. It's holy water.
It's literally right there in the manual. No,
that's the American manual. They probably called it Firebomb because Nintendo of America wouldn't let them call it holy water.
Well, yeah, so that's one of the funny things about the game is that Nintendo is big on censorship as far as like religious markings and things like that. But it's so far ingrained in Castlevania that they're just like, screw it. It's just, we can't realistically, you know what I mean? Because it's just there's crosses everywhere and the characters and all that stuff. It's just really kind of funny.
Was this game changed in any way for the American market? Obviously, the name was changed. In Japan, it's called something like Devil's Satanic Castle or something like that, like translated.
So the story of them trying to translate it into the name for America, it was like it was a terrible translation. It was like castle. Like you said, it was like castle and then something else, and they're just like, we're gonna go with Dracula,
like Devil and
Transylvania,
Satanic
castle.
were definitely like in there. Yeah, it's like Akumaja Daihatsu, or I can't remember what the Japanese name is.
So they ended up mashing up castle and Transylvania.
Yeah,
so that's how they got.
Which is genius because it perfectly Castlevania. It's perfectly named. Like it's this combination of two words that perfectly fits with like the overall tone of the game, because the tone of the game is kind of, it's scary, but it's kind of cheesy a little bit because it uses these old school monsters. Like there's not another Castlevania game that's like Castlevania. Well, arguably Castlevania 4 is like it, and arguably one of the 7 remakes is like it. But I mean, like if you look at like Castlevania 2, 3, many of the Metroidvanias that came later, like none of them have the feel or the tone of the original Castlevania.
Right. I'll have to play a few of the like next iterations to kind of feel that, because I really haven't put much time into Castlevania at all, like the whole series.
No.
But your question about what's different is in Japan, the first Castlevania came out on disc for the Famicom disk system. And what the disc had is a save state that you could have your save with your name attached, a la Zelda, and that did not.
Americans didn't need a save state. We're just better. They're like, no, we're just gonna get good instead of using your stupid ass save system.
I was like, son of a, and I believe too, if I remember correctly, the disc had the ability to have slightly higher fidelity audio. It had
really?
I don't know, like 4 or 6 more channels. So there's like, if you listen to the difference in audio of like the disc version versus the cart version, it's pretty noticeable. Like there's extra instruments and things like that going on, which I thought was pretty.
I know
cool.
That's true of the Castlevania 3 as well. Is that Castlevania 3 in Japan had an extra chip in the cartridge that enabled more audio channels, and you can really tell with that game. And that game is way easier. Like if you're gonna play Castlevania 3, like it is highly recommended that you just download the ROM of the Japanese version, because it's so much more enjoyable to play.
Right.
Than the American version is so difficult.
So why does everybody hate Castlevania 2?
Castlevania 2, it does some weird stuff. It's the first of the more exploratory Castlevanias, where you've got kind of a more open world, where you start off and you can explore the world. You can go right, you can go left. And then you've got to find these mansions that have all the different parts of what's his ass name? Dracula. And then you put those parts together, and then you kill Dracula, right? The problems with it are actually many. One of them is that you talk to townspeople to get the clues as to where you're supposed to go next, but they're not translated well enough to make any sense. So, like, the only way you could possibly get through this game is to have some sort of a game guide. Like, you have to have bought Nintendo Power that had the game guide for it, or you have to go on, GameFAQs.com currently and actually like look up a guide for it, because you're not going to figure it out yourself. It also has a bunch of bullshitty stuff. Like you could be in a mansion walking across a platform, and one of the platforms, like, blocks will just disappear under you fast enough that you can't possibly react to it to jump out of the way. So what you end up having to do is use your special weapons, throw them at the ground to see if the blocks are going to dissolve, which is just like random and boring. Like, that's not a fun thing to do, but you have to do it like constantly to make sure you just don't like lose a lot of progress. And there's no bosses. There's no bosses in the game. The only boss is like, I think there's one like near the end of the game, and then Dracula himself. And Dracula himself is a pushover. So it's got a lot of cool stuff. Like, there's one part where you have to like kneel in front of like a lake or something for 30 seconds with a certain item equipped to enable like a tornado to bring you to the next level. I've never actually played the game through. Like, I've seen the game, I've played like the first couple of bits of it, but I know enough about the game to know that like it's not worth my time because of it's just like, it's interesting for what it did at the time. It was really interesting, but going back to it now, it's just like, you've got so many good games that you could be playing. Like, why spend your time with this? Castlevania 1 is awesome. Castlevania 3 is awesome. Castlevania 4 is awesome. Like, it's just not high on the priority list.
I mean, wasn't Castlevania 4, you're talking about Super Castlevania, right?
Correct.
I mean, that was basically an upgraded version of the original Castlevania, wasn't it?
So yeah, it used to be kind of like, is it a remake of Castlevania 1? I don't know. It's kind of similar, but it's playing the game, it's not similar, right? It's like, it's a totally different game. It's like the levels are all different. The level design is different. Your character actually functions differently. He can reverse direction midair. His whip can now go in all sorts of different directions. So it's not, I mean, maybe they're trying to go for the remake for the story. I mean, some of the bosses are definitely repeated, but it's not like the levels are like, if you know to jump in this spot in Castlevania, you'll know to do it in the same spot in Castlevania 4. There's nothing nearly like that.
Gotcha. I mean, so you were talking about needing a game guide or whatever for 2. I would argue you need that for 1 as well.
Why is that?
Because if I hadn't, so I watched some videos and got our facts and whatnot, and learned more about the game and the series and stuff by watching different people talk about it. And one of the things is they're like, pro tips or whatever of where the pork chops are and what weapons you want to have for the bosses and ways to defeat the bosses. If I didn't know that stuff,
Yeah.
I don't think I could have gotten past like the second boss.
It's always
Because
the holy water. You always want the holy water.
Right, exactly. So if I didn't know that, trying to go into, I mean, obviously you can beat the bat with the whatever,
The axe.
yeah, and different things, but once you get to like a Medusa,
Yeah.
I mean, trying to beat those legitimately and like actually jump around and stuff with the terrible platforming mechanics, I don't know if I would have gotten very far.
All right, you said terrible platforming mechanics.
I mean, the fact specifically of the difficult to maneuver, like he's not very maneuverable.
No, he is
jumping around.
You have to commit to a jump, right? It's like you can't decide to jump, and all of a sudden there's something coming your way. You can't avoid it like by moving.
Right.
And I think that's very off-putting to a modern gamer, right? You're not.
It's tough.
Maybe like a Dark Souls gamer or somebody who's like kind of like really falling in love with that style of game where all movements are super deliberate and you really have to plan ahead and stuff. But I think to like a normal gamer, like going back to something like Castlevania is hard for that reason. I don't think the platforming is bad, but it's not as responsive as you want it to be.
Right.
I think
there's something where you don't know the patterns of the attacks and things like that, where you can't just beat it because you're a good gamer. Like you have to know.
You have to memorize it.
Yeah. So either have to memorize it or you have to know the trick of like what weapon to use, or because if you're at a boss and you get hit, it takes like a third or a quarter off your life. You get like 4 or 5 hits and you're dead.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of learning either. It's like, well,
it's never been known as an easy game. It's always been known as like a difficult game. But it's a game that like there's certain things like once you get used to the Medusa head patterns, like you rarely get hit by a Medusa head for the rest of the game because you just know how to avoid it. And there's a couple of spots where they try and like there's like jumps where you have to make this jump, and like a Medusa head will come like right when you're mid jump, so you have to know to tease her out before you jump, like that kind of stuff. That is definitely about memorization. But once you have it memorized, like people who have played this game to completion, like it looks like the game is easy when they play it, right? But as a newcomer, you realize no, this game is actually very, very difficult.
If I go back and play through it, I am confident that I could probably get back to where I was pretty quickly. I got to whatever death, what it was like level 16, level 15.
Yeah, I don't remember which numbers.
The Grim Reaper boss.
Yeah.
It was late this morning and I was playing through it and I was proud of myself for how much I stuck with it. But as soon as I got to Grim Reaper, I was like, it's too late in the morning. I'm not gonna go back to the beginning of this level and try it again.
Yeah.
But there was definitely a few times where it's like, well, I'm at the boss and I died. And there's probably no realistic way for me to beat this boss without the holy water. So I pretty much have to wipe and go back to the beginning of the level, the full stage, get the holy water again, and come back. Because if you don't have it, it's like I don't think
there's any. Frankenstein is a tough one, but he's definitely beatable with a dagger. You just have to like spam the dagger, and he has the Frankenstein boss has a hunchback as like his buddy, and you can't kill the hunchback. Yeah, he just goes like kind of randomly bouncing around the room, shooting fireballs at you. So you have to avoid not only the hunchback but the fireballs. But if you can do that, you can beat him pretty easily with the dagger. Death is super hard because the way he throws the crosses around and moves around the screen, it's just not conducive to the way Simon Belmont moves to easily avoid that. But I've seen it done. I've never even attempted it really. I always just get the holy water and bring it to death. And Dracula, like it's a guaranteed drop in the room. There's actually a candle in the room, Dracula's like boss room, that will always give you holy water every time.
Those are nice.
Yeah. I love this game. This is actually one of my favorite NES games. It's like in my top 3 easily. it's just like the music is fun, the action is fun. It's one of those games that I can pop in and play like, I don't know, like a half an hour of any time. Just because it's just a good mood game for me. Castlevania 3 is getting to be like that to me, but I don't like that there's other characters as much in Castlevania 3. I'm sure it was wild and exciting at the time, but like Castlevania 1 is fun because it's just this one character. You're just on this epic adventure with this character. I love this game. I really do.
I mean, I had fun playing it. I wanted to keep going. I got it to a time issue.
Yeah.
Did you know that there are 6 versions of this story told?
I didn't know 6, but I've seen a lot of different versions, and I've played a few of them.
5,
obviously.
I guess. Excuse me, 5, not 6.
I've played the arcade version, which I think is called Haunted Castle, and it's awful, and it looks awful. Like there's no way you don't see this game and say it's awful before you've even played it. But I've played it in MAME, and I have played the. No, I don't think I have. I've seen the MSX version, which is actually pretty cool. It's more like a maze.
And I think Castlevania 4 might be on that list too because it's telling the same story.
Okay. I've beat that game. I beat that game this year as well.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever even tried that game, to be honest.
It's really fun. It's much more forgiving. It's a much easier game too.
Better platforming mechanics. Check it out.
Well, you can reverse course in midair.
Right.
And you can whip in any direction. And you can just like dangle your whip like a. It's actually a mechanic when you're fighting Dracula in that game. Spoilers for Super Castlevania 4. It's that when you're fighting Dracula in Super Castlevania 4, he shoots fireballs at you, but you can't jump over them like you can in the original Castlevania. So what you do is you just dangle your whip loosely out in front of you, and it blocks the fireballs.
Briar's an expert about spraying his whip in all directions and dangling it out there.
I do like the whip as a weapon. It is a fun weapon. They've never nailed it in an Indiana Jones game, but they nailed it in Castlevania.
Man, Indiana Jones just gets me thinking about like well, isn't there a whip in the Jurassic Park game too? The original one for
jeez, I don't know.
SNES. That's where there is.
They just announced a new Indiana Jones game.
God, I hope it's good.
Bethesda's making it.
You mean Microsoft?
No, because it's apparently going to be a multi-platform game. It's Bethesda.
I'm just going through the different points here. Oh, have you ever gone through after you beat Castlevania and seen all the extra Moai heads?
No, I've never seen those. I have started, like, the second playthrough is harder, so I have, like, I've gotten significantly deep into a second playthrough, but there's no second ending, so I kind of, like, at some point just got bored and gave up.
Like the second playthrough has like harder enemies and they move faster and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Because when you beat it and you go back to the main menu, does it say like play through 2 or anything? You just start going again?
No, you just start going again.
Interesting.
I don't think there's anything because it's not one of those games that just lock. You know, some NES games when you beat them, they just lock up on the end screen. Like if it plays a cinematic, it'll just like whatever that last sunset is, it's gonna lock up there, and you have to hit the reset button to keep going. This game, I believe, it plays through the final cutscene and then it goes straight to the main menu. But it doesn't. I don't think it looks any different. You just hit start and you start playing again.
That's interesting. I thought it was funny that Simon Belmondo is in the end of the credits. Because that's apparently the Japanese character's name.
Oh, really?
And they didn't change it like in the credits for the US version. I felt like that was a little bit of an oversight, or they did it on purpose.
Yeah, that's funny. It's funny to me that they do like English in the end credits. Like, I guess it's not uncommon, right, in Japan to use English. But
when you're talking about like proper names and stuff.
All the names of the developers were changed to like things like horror movie tropes, right? It's like I can't remember any of them off the top of my head though. Like Bella Lugosi and stuff like that.
But it's like Bella Lugosi, like they
Yeah.
changed like 2 letters.
Yeah. It's got a kind of a neat ending. I think there's only one ending that you can see. In Simon's Quest, they have like multiple endings depending on how well you do in the game. But this one just has a regular old ending. It's a good ending though. So yeah, it's satisfying to see Castle Dracula fall to the ground. Yeah. It's a slog getting through that last level though. There's like this part where there's just a ton of those hunchbacks just getting dropped off in this place where you have to go down like multiple stairs. And like I've never figured out how to get through that level like reliably. It's just like a crapshoot whether I'm gonna get through there or not. Luckily there's a save point like on the stairs going up to Dracula's boss room. And there's like this little secret too. When you're going up the stairs, it's really dramatic. They have like awesome music playing, and the moon's behind you, and you're walking up these stairs like real deliberate, like leaning forward, like deliberately going up these stairs to go kill Dracula. But if you jump off of the stairs, there's like a bunch of items seemingly in the middle of nowhere, so you can get powered up before you go into your fight with Dracula. And then there's invisible stairs that go back up to the normal stairs.
Interesting. I didn't even see that, but there is like a room where you can continuously crack the candles to get more hearts and then go down and then come back up, get more,
Nice.
go down and come back up, get more. I had a hard time with the level where you were talking about the drop of the hunchbacks, when you're going through the flats and it's like pew, and you have to like
was it the ones where the eagles were dropping it? Or
yes.
were they that one is when I play that level is the only thing you can concentrate on is moving forward and whipping the eagles or whipping the hunchbacks before they hit the ground.
Yeah.
And luckily with new controllers, you have turbo buttons. It makes it way easier.
The turbo button. I didn't try the turbo button.
I used this when I got the NT Mini. It came with one of these 8-bit do N30 wireless controllers, and it's got like 2 red buttons, but above it, it's got the same 2 buttons, but they're just turbo. So I've been using that with Castlevania, and it just like, it shoots the whip faster than I could do.
Really?
By hand.
I didn't know that it was faster. Cheater.
It's yeah, totally cheated. It's totally a cheat move. But like it super helps with those guys, and like the stone dragon head things that shoot the fireballs at you. It's really helpful with those too, because you can whip the fireballs out of the air. So if you're hitting the turbo button and you're whipping as fast as you possibly can, like the chances of one of those getting through are like almost nil.
So that's where I had my biggest problems were those dragon head dudes.
Yeah, those guys are tough.
And I didn't realize that after you go through the hunchback area on the ground, you can just run past that dragon head.
Oh, really?
The first one at the door. Because I was like trying to figure out. I was like, how the heck?
Are you talking about the snake one?
Yeah.
Okay, those ones are different. I'm talking about the stationary big blocky ones.
The ones that go do and then
those are tough. You can jump the 2 that are in front of Frankenstein too. You can just jump over. Like, because they kind of form as you are running across the screen, and they're not fully formed until you can just jump over them to get by them. But if you need the hearts, then you just kill them to get the hearts.
What I ended up doing as when I went all the way back to the beginning of the level, I kept my holy water, and then if you use the holy water on the snake heads, they drop the 2 times and the 3 times. So then I was finally able to beat Frankenstein. I only had like 2 or 3 pieces of health left by the time I got there, but literally I just jumped up on that little thing. I was like, choo,
dumping holy water on them. Yeah. I mean, that's basically how I beat all the bosses in that game.
Yeah.
It's just dump holy water. Like it becomes, that's the strategy of that game. It's kind of like the Turtles game that we were talking about last week, where the strategy is about managing your, like the hidden strategy is about managing all your special weapons in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. In this game, it's much simpler. You just got to keep the holy water. Even though the game indicates, the cross would be handy right now, wouldn't it? Like this little boomerang thing that you can catch, but you don't actually get it back. Or the slowing down time might be really handy right now, don't you think? No, keep the holy water. Always.
It was so annoying.
The answer is always holy water.
The time getting locked thing, it takes 5 of your hearts away, which was really annoying. And then when you have holy water and you get close to the boss and you kill an ad and the enemy drops a weapon and you accidentally run over it and pick it up, you're like, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
I didn't want that.
Devastating blow
right now. Yeah.
What was your least favorite thing about the game?
I mean, there was a lot of, I thought I had the rhythm of the enemies down and I just kind of start going. And then all of a sudden I get onto a platform and a bird would come out and just kind of knock my ass as I'm jumping. It would just be too low. It would be too low for me to hit it, but I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't like jump or anything.
Yeah.
So I just had to sit there and take it. And then it does the Ninja Gaiden knockback thing into the
birds are frustrating in that because they can be somewhat random as to like, are they going to be too high? Are they going to be like right at whip level? Or sometimes they'll go below you and then come at you diagonally up.
Right. And when they're below you, like there's not a whole lot you can do. And, but you can't like jump and kind of sit in midair. You have to make a decision.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it really wasn't that frustrating. Like a lot of games that are like that, I just kind of, I start playing them. I'm like, I can't do this. But this game, it felt very, the rhythm and the way that the ads spawn. I was satisfied that when you kill an ad, it doesn't respawn.
Yeah, that's nice.
If you go off screen and come back, it's not like, it didn't come back like Turtles did. So that was, it helped a lot that they wouldn't respawn. But I felt pretty confident based on kind of the routine of all the enemies and stuff that I could get past them eventually. It's just going to take time and learning, figure out exactly where everybody is and when I have to slow down and when I have to speed up. And the Medusa heads did get pretty annoying when they would just keep coming and there was no end to them. When it was one at a time, it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
But
the Medusa heads, there's always a pattern with the Medusa heads, and it's just about like kind of figuring out like. Usually the best thing with the Medusa heads is just to always be moving forward and like knowing to either duck or to jump like when they're on you because it's one of the two, right? And once you know that pattern, like you can always figure it out. But when they come at you mid jump, it can be frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't get to the end. I got to the second to last boss, the Grim Reaper. So.
Yeah. Do you feel compelled to beat the game now, or do you think you'll just move on?
I mean, I have to start all the way back at the beginning, so I don't know.
Yeah, in all honesty, it's probably like a 30 to 45 minute like beat time, like to get all the way.
Get it all the way through.
Yeah,
I might try it on. I had totally forgot that I had this version, the NES Classics version for GBA. So this is literally a straight up port of the NES version.
No kidding, I didn't even know they made that.
So it's
it
pretty much all the NES.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure because I have the SP here, so I'm pretty sure it's just a straight up widescreen port of it. All the NES classic games are pretty much straight up ports.
No kidding. So. I would like to try that out. I have it on the.
It's not very expensive. It's not a very expensive game.
I've got it on I got a ROM of it on the Mister. I'm sure. It's there. I can check it out. I don't need to spend any money on it. I do have the Castlevania collection, which I highly recommend for the Switch, which is download only. There is not a physical release of this yet. They've teased, limited run is teased that they are going to be coming out with a limited a physical edition of it, and I'm hoping to pick that up because I just like to have that in my collection, even though I already own the digital version of it. But the things that they add, like save states, are really handy for a game like this, especially when you're playing it portable, because even now playing it the other day is like at some point I just needed to go do something else, right? It's like it's nice to be able to just like save a game and walk away. As opposed to pausing it and leaving your console running and hope it doesn't error out between now and when you come back. But that's an excellent way to play. The emulation is really good. It has several Castlevania games. I think it even has Rondo of Blood on it. I might be wrong about that. I'll have to double check if it has Rondo. But I know it has Castlevania 4. No, I don't think it does. It doesn't have Symphony of Night or Rondo of Blood. But it's a super satisfying way to play it. It has 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I believe 1, 3, and 4 are probably like my favorites. Well, Rondo of Blood is really good too. I don't know. They're all good. But it's a really nice way to play it because it's got save states. It's emulated really well. It looks great on the handheld screen. It looks great on the TV as well.
So 2 questions. One, how responsive are the controllers? Is there any delay?
No, it didn't seem like there's much delay. Not any that I noticed. I don't like the Switch Joy-Cons that much because it's got like the 4 buttons instead of a D-pad. So I use the Hori split pad when I'm using it. So yeah, I have I mostly play my Switch handheld. So I have the Hori Split Pad Pro, which are like kind of beefier Joy-Cons that go on the sides, and it has a real D-pad. They don't work wireless. They have to be plugged into the Switch to work.
Right.
But I really like those. So I mostly played it in handheld mode.
It's probably good because there's all those issues with drift and stuff with the Joy-Cons. So
Joy-Cons are ridiculous. I really don't like those things. They're not comfortable.
They're very small.
They're very small. They don't have a D-pad. I think the face buttons are too small, too close together. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Joy-Cons. I know there's people out there who collect all the colors of the Joy-Cons for $80 a pop, and to those people I say, why? I don't get it. But
I really like the Pro controller.
I like the Pro controller too. That's an expensive controller too. That's about $70 or $80, and I've already had one die, so I'm not like super excited to go buy another one. So I have 2. One is dead, and one is working.
Like died how?
It just doesn't turn on anymore. I assume the battery is kaput on it. Like I assume
there's a sexual joke there.
Yeah,
it doesn't turn on anymore.
Give it a little bit of a male enhancement.
Weird.
Yeah. So I'm, like the Pro controller, I like, but for $80, like I don't expect it to die in the first 4 years of ownership. Considering I've been using a Dreamcast for 21 years, and this one still works fine. That's one of the problems with these new consoles, though, is like how many of these accessories are just going to die because the batteries die over time, right?
Well, like the Elite 2s or even the Elite 1s are just... I, in 4 years, went through 5 Elite 1s, and then we've had the Elite 2s for 2 years, and I'm on my 3rd one already.
Why?
Because the bumpers... So I've had different problems. The Elite 1s, the grips used to come off with like any reasonable amount of use. The clicks on the thumbsticks would stop clicking and working. The bumpers sometimes would stop recognizing properly. And the paddles, there is a mechanism. So basically the paddle is like a wedge. So it like wedges a piece of metal onto like a metal inside the controller. And I think it creates a contact. And I looked with a flashlight in here just to kind of see what happened. And the metal thing that the kind of wedge would hit like broke. So like the paddle isn't able to make a connection. So that's what happened with my Elite 2. But fortunately now Microsoft has a 1-year warranty on the controls instead of 90 days like it used to.
When I buy controllers and mice, I actually just tweeted about this today. When I buy any controllers or any mice, I always buy them from Best Buy and I always get a 2-year warranty. Because it costs like $6 or $7 to get that warranty. And I have replaced so many mice and so many controllers with that warranty.
So super good advice. Costco, if you want to remember. I bought this from Costco, and realistically speaking, it does fit because it's not a console. It fits their like lifetime warranty.
Ooh,
stuff.
That's nice.
So this is the first time that I bought it from Costco, and I've already gotten a replacement from Costco.
They had no problem replacing it?
It broke in like 9 months. So yeah, you literally online, you just say like my controller broke and they send you a new one and a free shipping thing to send the old one back.
That's ridiculous that you've gone through 5 of those. At $200, I would expect better.
So I went through 5 Elite 1s in 4 years, and I'm on my 3rd Elite 2 in 2 years.
That's insane.
Yeah.
For $200, I expect a better controller.
They feel so damn good, though. Like, when they're working, they feel so nice. So it's really hard to get away from it.
I wish that the new consoles had put paddles on the new controller standard.
I feel like it's an eventuality.
Yeah, the PS4 they eventually released a first party kind of like plug-in thing that went on the bottom of the controller that had paddles on it. But they did that like a year before the PS5 came out, and so I was hoping that was going to mean they were going to do that for the PS5, but I haven't heard anything about it.
I mean, it's definitely an accessory for power users.
Yeah.
But if they I just think about if they gave that ability to game designers, what kind of things game designers could do with it, because it allows you so much more freedom in what you're doing as a player, and you could use that to your advantage as a designer in the game. Like, oh, we can use these buttons for these things, and it would make it really cool to be able to activate these things, at the same time as doing this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And it takes, there's a little bit of time getting used to the paddles and stuff, but once you get used to it, there's no going back for me. I like League controllers are the way to go.
I can't play a shooter without paddles anymore. Unless I play, obviously, on a mouse and keyboard. Then they literally have dozens of buttons.
Yeah, I mean,
perhaps 52 or more.
I'm old, so like the reason that I use controllers, I'm old and I'm a drummer and I have wrist carpal tunnel issues. And I used to use keyboard and mouse when I was a teenager. Like I was flipping 180s and Counter-Strike and stuff back in the day. But I just want to relax and I just want to chill out and play a game. I'm not here to win any competitions or anything. So it's just a lot more comfortable and a lot easier on my joints and stuff to use a controller. And I think that's typical for older gamers. And I don't know if that's because it's more comfortable or that's because we grew up with controllers more than gamers now. But yeah.
I do hear about RSI injuries much more with people who are playing with keyboard and mouse than I do about people using controllers. But they're not out of the question for people using controllers. Especially those crazy motherfuckers like True Vanguard who uses a claw grip. Like those guys.
Oh, he uses claw? Oh, no.
Those dudes, man. You got to check what's going on in there.
He looks like he's 22.
He looks like he's crazy using that claw grip. Should we wrap this one up? Is there anything else we want to talk about? Oh, do you have any pickups?
I do. What game do we want to play in 2 weeks, though?
Oh man, I want to get off the Nintendo break here. I want to switch it up. Let's do a different console.
Sure.
All right, we've been doing NES a lot. So, what's another console that you'd like to check out?
Just like I'm thinking handhelds. I have Game Gear games now, and I'm waiting to play Game Gear games.
All right. Maybe what's a good Game Gear game that we could go for?
Or Genesis, right?
Ristar. I'm always down for some Genesis. I've never played Ristar. I've always heard it's a good game, but I've never played it. You want to do Ristar?
I'm thinking. Is there anything else? Like we should think of a couple of different games and maybe pick from.
All right. One game that I've never beaten and I've always wanted to beat was Revenge of Shinobi. It's the first Shinobi game that came out on the Genesis, and it also features such notable characters as Spider-Man, Batman, The Incredible Hulk, and Godzilla.
Damn. I do think I own that game. I think I have the Sega Classics version of that game.
So that's a good one. What else is good on the Genesis? We don't have to necessarily go good. We could go shitty, like Jack and the Forever Man. That game is rough.
There's like Alex Kidd.
Yeah. I've never played much of the Alex Kids. I have been getting into the Monster World games, which are pretty fun.
Monster World. Genesis?
Yeah.
Actually, hold on. Do we want good Genesis games?
I wouldn't mind playing a good game. It's more fun than
there's
a game.
Okay, so I just Googled it real quick. There's like Streets of Rage, Gunstar Heroes, Phantasy Star, Comic Zone, Altered Beast.
Altered Beast would be kind of fun. It's the launch game for Genesis, and it's generally looked on, I think, at this point as a bad game. But I remember it being awesome because when I got Genesis, Altered Beast,
Oh man, I could play through some Altered Beast.
When
I think
I got a Genesis, that was the packing game that I got, and it's the game that sold me on Genesis. I saw that in EGM, Electronic Gaming Magazine. I saw the still pictures of that game, and I was like, "Holy fuck, that's the next generation, man!"
I can still hear the like really tinny like electric audio of when you transform from human to beast. Like,
Yeah. Oh, let's do some fucking Altered Beast, man.
All right.
All right. I am down. Chat, we're going to play. If you're listening to this, we're going to be playing Altered Beast. So if you'd like to play along, this is not a difficult game. I think it's pretty bone easy to beat. Like a couple of playthroughs, you're going to beat it because it's not very long. It's not very difficult. So if you'd like to play along with us, we'll be talking about it in 2 weeks' time. Altered Beast, it'll be the main attraction. And this is easily playable in tons of different ways. You can I know it was on the most recent mini Genesis, Sega Genesis Mini, the mini console. Like any Sega collection is going to have Altered Beast on it because it's like, even though like at this point it's not looked on very kindly, but I remember loving it. And I haven't played it. Like,
this might be really bad for you.
it might be like it. It might be.
Like, this game fucking sucks. My childhood has been ruined.
But it's so cool because like at the time when this came out, like Arnold was like a huge movie star, right? And in this game, you pick up these power orbs and you transform into this like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Conan like monster dude. And then from there, you transform into like beasts, like actual like war beasts, like a bear or a dragon or a werewolf. And like it's really cool stuff. I haven't played it though since I was a kid, so I'm really wondering. I'm gonna have to find this. I gotta find a cartridge of this.
I don't think they're very expensive. I think it's like $8 to $10 maybe.
Okay, I'm gonna need this one complete in box.
Let me look.
Because this is unfortunately
Yeah,
the original
15 to
Genesis. 15 to 20?
$20.
All right, I'm gonna order it tonight, and so I can play it. The original Genesis came with this as a pack-in game, and it showed real well in stills. You know, I don't know what were reviews for it like back then. Did people like it back in the day, or has it always been thought of as a shitty game?
5.3 out of 10 for IGN. Well, that's IGN, so that was recent, relatively recent.
Oh, okay.
Metacritic says 63%, but that's 13 reviews.
Have you ever gone back and read old gaming magazines to see what like the current like contextually like in the 80s or 90s what people thought of these games when they were brand new?
Not unless like a video that I'm watching covers it. Like, this game is thought to be terrible, but back in the day, everybody thought it was great. You know?
Yeah. I wonder what people thought of Altered Beast. I'll find out. I will definitely look that up because that was a notable thing. 1989 when the Genesis came out, man. That was a big deal.
Yo, I need to send you this website. So I just Googled it real quick. There's a website called SegaNerds.com.
Oh yeah, I have that in my favorites.
And it's a retro review from 2014, and it goes through and it shows like magazine stills and it looks like it shows the pack-in box art for when Altered Beast was packed in and stuff. So that's kind of cool. And they rated it 5 out of 5. So
5 out of 5. See, maybe I think that there's been like, I think this has happened with a lot of games. I think there's been like really popular like videos or influencers who have a take on a game, and you know, like the word says, they've influenced like a broad majority of like people who kind of remember something, and like they get enough of a nugget of information from this influencer that they're like, yeah, that makes sense. That's now my take on this subject, right? And I think that's true with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with the Angry Nerd video, like we talked about. And I think that's probably true with a lot of games. Like a lot of games are looked at fondly because they're popular to like a lot of 3D Zelda games. That like, I don't understand why all these 3D Zelda games are always like on number 1 or number 2 of everybody's like top 10 games of all time list. Like those games are not as good as Link to the Past. Like objectively.
like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask. Yeah.
I don't understand it. Anyway, Yeah,
I mean, they were revolutionary in what they were because of the open world nature of everything.
Yeah, but like to play them now is hard.
Well, just 'cause I feel like playing almost any 64 game is tough because it's just it hurts to play.
Yeah, they just look so bad. And also like just 3D worlds, just they didn't know. Like this is true about the PlayStation, Saturn, and the N64. Is they hadn't figured out 3D movement. They hadn't figured out 3D cameras. Like so, there's just a lot of like weirdness about it. And like even if you go back to Mario 64, which is revered, it's a revered video game. Just trying to control that camera is just like, oh yeah, they hadn't figured this out yet.
Imagine if they put Ocarina of Time on the Breath of the Wild engine.
Yeah.
And sold it for the Switch.
I can't believe they haven't done that. That would sell like gangbusters. Anything they make that has Zelda in it, though, it's gonna sell.
They did Link to the Past.
They did?
Or excuse me, not Link to the Past, Link's Awakening.
Yeah.
And that game looks phenomenal. But it wasn't even that hard. Yeah, that game wasn't even that bad. If you go back and play the 8-bit versions, they're not that bad because those hold up well.
That game, though, it looks like you're playing with toys. Like it's amazing.
I love the miniature style. It looks fantastic.
It's got like a tilt shift.
I haven't played it yet.
It's very good. It's very good. There's a weird issue with kind of like frame rate when it's like loading between screens, but honestly, like it's nothing to get worried about. It's a really good game. Do you own it?
Yeah, I do. Another one of those, Jay.
Why do I ask? Yeah. That's a damn good game. I wouldn't put it in my top 10 of all time though. Like Jesus Christ. That's how do you even make a list like that? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to even like think about making a top 10 list for anything of all time.
Right. It's like a list of how I'm feeling right now based on what I've been playing recently.
Yeah. That being said, I think we're going to have to make that list. I think that would be a fun episode. Because it's super fun to do.
How long would the list be?
Just make a top 10.
Maybe we do it. Maybe that should be our, we just started the podcast not that long ago. So maybe this is our first full year, assuming we can put up with each other that long.
Yeah. This will be our first on SideQuest.
Of the year we can do it.
On SideQuest, we did like a game of the year kind of episode. But I think what it would be really fun for us to do is like the best old games we played this year. So like all the games that you played this year that were, not necessarily released this year. Like if this was the first year you ever played Castlevania, for instance, it'd be nice to like just like make a little list. Like here's my favorite old games I played this year. Cause I don't know, it's informative, I think, to hear about that kind of stuff because there's not a whole lot of media out there talking about, games for the Sega Saturn, there or stuff like that. And when you find something that you really like, it's nice to like kind of point it out, even if the games are still good. You know what I mean? It's like, for some reason, people can watch old movies without a problem. People can listen to old music without a problem. But old video games, partially it's a tech problem, I guess. It's just like figuring out how to get this stuff working and looking like somewhat decent is kind of a stumbling block. But like, I'll put the gameplay of Ninja Gaiden up against any modern game. It is just such a fun game to play that like I'll put it up against anything. And I guarantee anybody who enjoys video games is going to have fun playing Ninja Gaiden.
I think it's just design convention. Designers realize 30, 40 years later, like certain things are make it more fun or more enjoyable of an experience and less frustrating. And going back to those games that don't have those conventions and they're brutally frustrating, it can be tough to play those again.
Yeah, maybe.
But if you consciously sit down and try to make an effort and try to like put yourself in the mindset of a child in the 90s or the 80s, where you're having to continuously go through a level, memorize the enemies, like figure out where the stuff is, like figure out the patterns, then it changes your whole mindset because we don't really have to do that nowadays unless you're like a Dark Souls gamer or something like that where you're having to memorize patterns. But that's a very niche thing now.
Yeah.
That type of gameplay. So
yeah, I mean, I've been playing Yakuza Like a Dragon lately, which is hardly a video game at all. It's mostly just a movie.
Mm.
It's a 60-hour long movie.
Yeah.
So what'd you pick up? You got any good pickups to show off
I
this week?
do. Did you get anything in 2 weeks?
I got a Sega Dreamcast controller.
There you go. Cool.
I don't think I got
The one
any
that
new
you showed?
games now. Yeah,
Did you show that? You showed that Dreamcast controller, right?
I think
The
so. It's
red
right
one?
here.
Blue one?
Yeah, it's blue. It's got a more modern layout. It feels like a modern video game controller. I'm actually doing a review. I'll put it up on YouTube. But the long and short of it is, it's probably my favorite Dreamcast controller, but it's by no means a perfect controller.
You know what it looks like to me? Did you ever try or come across an Ouya?
Yeah,
It looks like an Ouya
it
controller.
does a little bit. You're right. I bought an Ouya. Did you ever buy an Ouya?
I was a backer. Yeah,
Yeah, I
had
have
the
one in my
OG
closet
one.
back there.
I sold it very quickly.
Did you?
Because what happened was, it was a pure emulation machine, and I was like, "Oh, this will be cool. It can be a media center and an emulation machine and all this stuff."
Yeah.
And the first time I played a game on it, the delay, the lag was so bad, I boxed it up. I was like, "I can't do this."
Oh, that sucks.
I tried to play like Super Mario World on it. It was like you hit the button and like a second later he'd jump. I was like, "You can't play platformers."
Yeah.
You know, it's just, the delay was horrible. And I think they fixed some of that delay at some point with a firmware update. I just washed my hands of it. I think I profited like $30 on it because
Nice.
I sold it so fast. I like made a little bit of money on it. I was like, "Oh, I just can't."
I just turned an NVIDIA Shield into an emulation machine. You know the NVIDIA Shield TV?
I do, yeah.
I had one because it was a really neat way to stream games from your PC at 4K 60 FPS to my living room, because my PC obviously is in my office where I am now, but my living room is on the other side of the house. But I like to play video games there because it's more a social environment. Like, there's more activity around. So I'd used it to stream 4K 60 video games. It worked great.
Really?
Yeah, it worked great.
There was no delay at all.
There's a little bit of delay, but no worse than like playing Stadia or something like that. It's probably better than playing Stadia.
Can't do it.
So I played games. I played the second Tomb Raider game all the way through. I played a bunch of Witcher 3 with it that way. I played a ton of stuff. I wasn't playing Mega Man, where you definitely would, if there's going to be a delay, you'd find it. Like a 3D game like Tomb Raider or something, it's much easier to have a delay, a small input latency. But it's only on my home network. It's not going outside of my home network, right?
Right.
But it looked great. It ran at 4K 60. But now that I have an Xbox Series X in the living room, like, I have no need for this thing. So I was looking up what are some fun projects I could do with this. And I saw that you can turn it into an emulator. You can emulate NES, Super Nintendo, Genesis, TurboGrafx, Saturn, PlayStation, Dreamcast, N64, GameCube, Wii, like all of these. I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna do that. And I turned it into like a little emulation station, loaded a bunch of, not every game for every system, but like highlights for most of those systems. And it's great. It's a nice little system. Play some Mario Golf on there, no problem.
Nice.
Yeah.
I tried to do something similar. I bought the little PlayStation TV.
Yeah. I have one of those as well, yeah.
Because you were supposed to be able to use that to hook up to your PS4.
That thing
over network.
Sucked.
Oh, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I was
terrible.
Like, I tried to play it, and it was like the delay was so bad. And same thing with Stadia. I was like, oh, I can play, on the home TV. And
that PlayStation TV sucked.
And I had Vita games and stuff, so it made sense for me. I still have that, actually. I think it's caked in dust right now in my entertainment center, but
that thing you can jailbreak and put like Vita games and stuff on. But like trying to use it for that remote play functionality, it was terrible. Like the delay was so bad on it. Yeah. The NVIDIA Shield TV was nothing like that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, there was certainly a measurable delay, but it was not enough to impact your enjoyment of a game, especially something like a 3D, like an exploratory game, like a Witcher 3 or Tomb Raider. I've also used the Steam box. I can't remember what that was called, but it was a Steam TV box similar to that. But I upgraded to the NVIDIA Shield because the NVIDIA Shield offered 4K, where the Steam box offered only 1080p. And that was good. And you had to have it wired. You couldn't use it Wi-Fi because the Wi-Fi just wasn't good enough. But it worked. Right. You know, it worked to get PC games down to my living room, so I didn't have to like move a PC.
I think I'm so picky with that delay. Even if I notice it at all, it's over. Like I can't do it.
Yeah. See, I can get over it for like adventure games. If I'm not gonna play like I'm not gonna play Super Meat Boy like that. You know.
God, going back to that game, bringing back some memories.
But for like, you know, I think there's controller lag cooked into most 3D games anyway. And the fact that most consoles use Bluetooth controllers means that there has to be some, because there's delay on Bluetooth controllers. You know, one of the nice things about the Xbox is it's always had faster controllers than the PlayStation. And some people can notice that. Maybe you're one of them. Maybe that's why you prefer Xbox over PlayStation.
I mean, for me, it was the controller, but it's literally because the PlayStation controller gave me like hand cramps and the Xbox didn't. Because the two thumbsticks like this, like you just stretch your hand out so much, you know, when you're holding the triggers and stuff. And the Xbox is more of a neutral hand position. I think it's just kind of why I preferred it.
Yeah, I thought the Xbox 360 was the most comfortable controller ever made. And I don't know why they fucked it up with the Xbox One. It just wasn't as comfortable.
Did you ever play with an Elite one?
I have the Elite 2. I never had the Elite 1, but I do have an Elite 2.
I mean, they feel very similar. So if you enjoy the way that felt, like it was such an improvement over the Xbox One controller.
Yeah,
even though it like broke down very quickly.
Yeah, I like the Xbox One X controller as well. I especially like the D-pad on that new controller.
It's more tactile. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels good. All right, pickups, Jay. Let me see.
All right.
Let me see that loot.
I don't have as much as last time, but it's still quite a few things. All right. Start out with the little guys. I got some big ins here. So, this was just a box upgrade and manual upgrade for my copy because my copy is pretty beat up. But this I want to pin this, and at some point soonishly, I want to cover this game because I want to play it again and try to beat it for the first time ever.
All right.
So Mike Tyson's Punch-Out!
Oh shit!
Was one of my favorite games as a kid. This is a box upgrade for me, so it's in much better condition. It's still got some dings on it, but so this game, and the story behind it, and between this going into regular Punch-Out and the whole licensing stuff, I think the story behind the game is interesting. The gameplay is fucking incredible.
I bet it's the only time Nintendo's ever had a convicted rapist on the cover of their game.
Probably. But he was young. He was like 19 or 18 when he was. This is young Mike.
Yeah. I mean, they actually signed that contract before he was a superstar.
Oh, yeah. And right when the game came out is like when he won his first title. So that's the game sold like gangbusters.
That game is super fun, man. It is super difficult, though. Like, once you get up there in the title belt, like, it is really hard. I'd be up for a challenge. Like, if we did like another one of those challenge weeks where we try and see who can get further, that'd be fun.
I would probably have to like go look at some tips and tricks to figure out all the actual ins and outs, because I've gotten up to like Bald Bull 2 when he comes back, and like Soda Popinski, and up when you get up into that area, it's just like you're like 2 or 3 away from Mike, and I just like everything's just so fast, and I just kind of fold and give up.
Have you ever seen that guy on Games Done Quick who can do it blindfolded?
Oh yeah,
that's
it's like
crazy.
All the timing, memorization, and everything. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And there's only so many variations of each attack that the enemies do. So like you can get hit, but if you block at the right time and all that stuff, crazy.
That game is difficult.
Yeah. Another game that was one of my favorites as a kid, though, but like I don't think very many other people ever played it or knew about it very much. But I picked up a complete copy. I think I had some eBay rewards, so I didn't even pay anything for this. But Motocross Maniacs for the Game Boy.
Oh, interesting. I like good motorcycling games.
Yeah, so for anybody who played like the Trials games nowadays, where you're like going and doing all the different tricks and stuff, it's kind of like the original of that. It's not like Sight Bike. It's side scroller, and like there's all these loop-de-loops and ramps and jumps, and you have to collect stuff, and it's it was pretty awesome. Like, but I felt like it was one of those hidden gems that not very many people played, but I really enjoyed.
Never heard of that. That looks good though. Those screenshots on the back of the box make it look cool.
Yeah, so
I love
it was one of those
Trials
things.
too.
I saw it, on one of my searches. I was like, I have some rewards. I'm just gonna pick this up because it brings back my childhood.
Jay, did you ever play
Um,
that Trials game where they try to put like a sci-fi like storyline into? It's like came out, I
for your
believe, on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One.
I've played all the Trials games, Trials Fusion, Trials.
It might have been Fusion. Was it? Is that
I
the one they
really
put
enjoyed it.
the story in?
Probably. There's a lot of space themed things.
Yeah, but it was like a brother and sister who like I can't remember now. It's been a
I don't
long
remember the
time,
story part.
but it was a weird game.
I
I like
love the
those Trials games. Me too, but that one
My
was
hands hurt after playing those games.
yeah. I'm also not good at them, but I like them anyway.
I got some like top 100 times on a few maps,
Really?
and basically me and my buddy JSniperton, it was like our little competition. It went back all the way to 360
Wait.
from the first Trials game.
There's another Sniperton?
He's actually the one that created the name. I'm the
No
one who stole
kidding.
it. Yeah. So this name's been around since like 2006. And so because he lives in Seattle, it's like I went to high school with him and stuff, and it would be our like friendly competition. He'd text me, be like, check out my time on this map, sucker. And so literally I'd go and play one map for like 3 hours just to try to beat his time. And we just keep one-upping each other over and over and over again. And it was just a fun way to do it. But then I downloaded the most recent Trials on Steam,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't have a gaming PC, and so
Oh.
it just kind of stopped,
Oh, that's too bad.
sadly. So yeah, I kind of stopped playing that game, but I had a lot of fun with the Trials games for sure. All
Those
right,
are good games.
another NES game. I already had 1943, but I've been on the lookout for 1942 for a while, and I found a decent copy for a decent price.
Oh, I like that
I
cover.
picked up 1942 for the NES, complete in box, good shape. For those who like Capcom top-down shooter type games, it's like one of the original ones. So, did you ever play these much
Oh yeah, not much. I've played them all, but
in the
not
arcade?
not
Stuff?
like a lot.
I don't know why. Like those games are always fun to me.
Interesting aesthetic, like the World War II planes instead of like most top-down shooters are like spaceships and like aliens, where those are like World War II
Right.
planes and stuff.
Yeah, so that's cool. And then like you're a TurboGrafx guy, so you know all about Bonk.
I wouldn't say I'm a TurboGrafx guy.
Well, more than I ever was. And recently I got that PC Engine disc with Bonk on it.
Yeah.
And I would like to get Bonk for NES, but it's like $600, so it's on my list of ones to eventually get.
Yeah.
So I got the next best thing. I got the Game Boy version, which is like,
No kidding.
it was like less than $20.
That's an old
So
pea soup Game Boy cartridge too.
yeah,
That's not even
yeah.
Game
So
Boy
I
Color.
played it a little bit. I had never played a Bonks game before I loaded this up for a minute. And you have to like jump and dive and hit your head on enemies and stuff like that.
Yeah. What'd you think?
I have Bonk for SNES too, which actually is getting.
I
to
didn't
be
know they
pretty
made one
expensive.
for SNES.
Yeah. Super Bonk, I guess what it's called.
Okay, that adds up.
So many super names with all the Super Nintendo games.
When you're looking at your SNES library, the S section is extra long.
Yeah.
Super Off-Road, Super Boxing Adventure.
Very long. Yeah, there's so many.
Super Street Fighter too.
Super Mario RPG, Super Mario Yoshi's Island, Super this, Super that,
Super
Punch
Off-Road.
Out.
Yeah, Super everything.
Punch Out. Did you ever play Super Punch Out?
I own that one actually. I like Super Punch Out. I don't think it gets much respect. I also I have not found this yet, but I want to buy the Wii Punch Out game. I've heard it's fantastic.
Fun
from
it's
multiple
fun.
people.
Because you're
yeah. Well, you can play it with a controller too, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. But it
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that the Super Nintendo version of Punch Out is almost identical to the arcade version, the original Punch Out arcade version.
Yeah, it doesn't have a little Mac, and it doesn't have
no, the arcade game didn't have little Mac. Yeah,
right.
The arcade game didn't have little Mac, but it has that wireframe.
Yeah,
and it has
that's not as charming as like little Mac like jumping up to reach, but it's still a fun game.
So the Wii version is kind of a mashup of both.
Yeah.
So it's like you have a lot of the original characters and stuff from the original game, and then some of the characters from the Super Nintendo and stuff, but you have Little Mac again and whatnot. So I would love to see them bring a Switch version. But it
Yeah,
needs to stay simple. It needs to stay simple in mechanics, I think.
I agree.
Can't get too crazy with it. Another small pickup, like nobody's really going to care about, but me as a game collector who likes to pick up rare stuff. Uh, so I literally bought a manual for a game called Sumo Fighter for Game Boy. It's one of the more rare games for Game Boy. It's like top 10 rare. And I bought the game last year. It was one of my eBay finds last year. So I'm just showing off the cart that I had. This and the way that I found out about Sumo Fighter, sometimes you just find out games when you're going through stuff and you don't know and you just look it up. Somebody had listed 4 Game Boy games in cases like this. So the picture wasn't great. It was just like 4 Game Boy games side by side. And it was like Power Rangers and then like Super Mario Land and Bomberman and then this. And I knew the other 3 and I knew they weren't really all that expensive, but this one I didn't know. So I went and looked it up and it was going for like $80 or $90 at the time.
Can't imagine there was a lot of kids putting Sumo Fighter for Game Boy on their Christmas list.
No, I know. But I looked it up and I saw $80 and I bought it because they were selling all 4 games for $10 plus shipping. So for like $14, I got all 4 of the games. And so I essentially got this game for free because I sold the other ones.
Nice.
But just learning about Sumo Fighter, and it's actually a decent game. It's like a side-scrolling kind of fighter game where you're a sumo fighter and you're going through and you're fighting enemies. Think in the Double Dragon probably for Game Boy kind of
Oh, really?
way.
Weird.
But yeah. So that was kind of interesting. And I saw like these are things that like pop up on eBay like once a year or once every other year kind of thing. So I just picked it up. Complete in box, the game runs for like $1,500,
Wow.
which is mostly the box. And I don't know if I'll ever get the box, but now I have the game and manual at least.
How do you store something like that? So, like, imagine you're in that situation where you have the game, you get the manual. Do you store them both together? Are they on a shelf? Are they in a box? Like, how does that go?
So right now, I just have all of my manuals kind of stacked on the shelf, like in a pile.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Game Boy games I bought. Oh shit! Sorry. One way to display Game Boy games is to get like a makeup display or like a lipstick display, which is like a plastic. If you picture like a tiered kind of thing, you can kind of
bleachers
fit the Game Boy games. Yeah, and you can have them all kind of facing out. You can do that with like GBA and stuff like that. So I have the game. I have the tiered thing. I just haven't set it up yet. So, but I don't know how else to display it. I mean, I probably will get one of those little plastic case cover things for this because it's kind of a rare, expensive manual. But so yeah, it's kind of weird. I'm bad with displaying stuff. They say what's the difference between a collector and a hoarder? It's just the way that it's displayed.
Yeah.
I'm halfway between both right now. I have stuff just sitting in boxes, and
I have a few games, but they're all NES games that have the manual. I have the manual and the cartridge, but not the box. But luckily, the NES has that sleeve, so you can just kind of shove the manual into that sleeve with the cartridge, so it's convenient for keeping them both together. But I'm not collecting anything. I'm just buying the games that look like I'd like to play them, or I loved them when I was a kid. Like I have no intention of reselling anything, or like I think of it less like a collection, more like a library, I suppose.
Right.
Where it's a bunch of stuff that I like to play.
I mean, I want to, but the collector treasure hunter part of me takes over, and I'm like, ooh, good deal, ooh, like it's just constant. I can't.
I get that way on Limited Run's website. Like I think it's like it's a FOMO kind of thing because I know it's not gonna be.
Yeah.
Like I know it's not gonna be for sale in 2 weeks. So like, oh, if I don't buy it now, I'm gonna miss out on it forever. And what if I want it? Like Scat, they're selling Scat the video game right now, an NES cartridge. You can buy it in like this army green. I've never heard of Scat before they put that up there. I played it on my Mister. I was like, this is kind of cool, I guess. And I've probably clicked that buy button like 4 times, but no, take it out of my cart. I don't need that shit.
Yeah. So I have those moments, and the thing that gets me to buy it is that if I'm like, well, if I decide I don't want it, I can probably sell it for a profit because I'm buying it for such a good price.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, shit. And so I'll buy a bundle of stuff and I'm like, I only want 2 games in this lot, but I can sell the rest and make a little bit on top so I can use it for other stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I do
I
it in a
don't.
way where I am reinvesting into the hobby and stuff, and it's gotten to the point where I can buy some pretty expensive games and reinvest.
Yeah, I think that's what enables you to do that, right? I could never justify buying a $500
No.
fighting sumo box, but
Right.
like if the motivation is of profit, or if the side motivation is profiting enough that you can kind of finance your habit,
Right.
like,
Well,
I mean, it's a
that's more
different
what it is.
story. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It just takes time, and it's built up over 7 years, so,
yeah,
I have a lot more knowledge about it now and connect quicker and whatnot.
yeah.
So I don't leave the house often, and I had to leave the house yesterday to go return a few things to GameStop that if I didn't, I would have lost out on returning. So I did that, and then I went to the game store and took a box of stuff for them to trade in, like doubles and things that were on their buy list and stuff. And I picked up a few games. I literally traded in like 20 and picked up 3.
Mm.
So there's a couple of heavy hitters in here. The
It sounds
first
like it's
one,
gonna be juicy.
it's gonna be pretty juicy. So the first one is a game that Briar keeps talking about and keeps telling me about for TurboGrafx, and so now I had to have it.
Yeah,
Legendary Axe for the TurboGrafx Complete. It's got the manual and the hue card and everything. They had 1 copy. They also had Darkwing Duck hue card, but it was $139. I was like,
the card alone, not the box.
Yeah, just the card.
Oh, damn.
But I looked on
I
eBay
saw it for 90 at my game store. I should have bought it.
Well, recently.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I use credit.
Last year.
I use credit, so like I'm not actually spending 140. It's
okay.
probably I'd be spending more like 50 or 60 with what I actually spent.
Did you buy it?
No, because I ran out.
I don't think that version of Darkwing Duck is all that well respected either.
It's not, but there's a lot of games in the collector's circle that are terrible games but very expensive because they're really rare. So if you look on eBay for Darkwing Duck for TurboGrafx, there's like 3 sales in the last year or something like that. It's not an often sold game.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those, and I think there's only like 2 or 3 that are even listed currently, and one of them is listed for like 150. So it's one of those things where if you want it, you might have to pay a little bit more for it because who knows when you're going to be able to see it again. So I might end up picking up it again if they still have it, like next time I go and take a bunch of stuff in, but because I only go like once a month.
Yeah.
All
right. I want you to play Legendary Axe. One of these, maybe after that Turbo Duo comes out, maybe we'll have to play it then. Because that game, it's very interesting because like you level up in that game in a kind of weird way. Like the action it's got this like kind of system where if you swing your axe constantly, you don't do as much damage as if you swing it like slower. It's an interesting game, and it to me it's one of the ones that really I think TurboGrafx 16, a lot of people kind of relate it with shooters, but for me Legendary Axe is tied to that game or to that console in a very weird way.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to check out it eventually.
Yeah.
So I go back and forth between like picking up expensive games or rare games from one system to another, and I've picked up quite a few SNES games recently. We covered me picking up Final Fight Guy and Aero Fighters for SNES.
Yeah.
So I picked up a couple of NES games that are in the same wheelhouse as those 2 that I just mentioned, and so I'm getting closer to having kind of the top 10 or top 15 games for NES. And so the first one that I've had my eye on, it's been on my list for a while and I've heard good things, is Mighty Final Fight for NES.
Oh shit, this game is my fucking jam, Jay. I love this game. Hell yeah. It's Final Fight, but it's like the mini little characters like you'd see in like River City Ransom. I mean, there's a Final Fight characters, but they're like chibi sized. It is fucking adorable. It's got it's a fucking great game. It came out super late. I didn't even know it existed till this year, and I played it on a Mister, and I sat there. I just kept playing it. It was so fun. This game is my jam, man. I love this game. How much was that copy? Because if I ever saw a copy of this, I'd buy it too. Maybe I wouldn't. Never mind. I take that back. Based on Jay's reaction, I take that back.
They had it listed for $245.
Uh-huh.
And so, like, because I go to this game store a lot, I got 5% off, and I had a bunch of credit, so I probably paid about $100 out of pocket for it. Realistically,
Okay.
they do. If you're looking for a copy, they have 2 more copies. One of them is absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
That they're selling for $120.
Well, where's the fun in that? I
Like
want
the
a nice
label
copy for
yeah, I know. Like
$12.
I was looking at the other one. I was like, this is $245. The other one's $120, but the other one, like the entire top half of the label's just like ripped off.
Yeah.
But
so
for
that was just
$120,
the cartridge, not complete in box?
Oh yeah, this is just the cart.
Oh shit.
Complete in box, you're probably talking 1,000 or at least $1,000.
All right, I'll just keep playing on Mister. But that game is fucking awesome. It is like it's Final Fight, but it's on the NES, and it's better than you think it would be. It's because it's like a lot of those fighters, like the brawlers on the NES, kind of weren't that good. Like we thought they were good when we were kids, but that one's still good. It's like a legit game, and I didn't even know it existed until I don't know, like a year ago.
Yeah,
maybe 6 months ago. I mean, it's fun. It's a fun game.
Yeah. So it's one of those games like I keep hearing good things about, and it's a rare game, and so like the two, like I really like getting good games that are rare because I feel like
that's way more fun than getting a shitty game.
Right, it's gonna hold up the value more first of all on that end, so I don't have to worry as much about losing anything, and then just being able to experience a game that not a whole lot of people get to experience is pretty special, and get to hold it in my hand and get to put it on the shelf and stuff. That whole thing is just really fun to me. It's not so much like holding above other people's heads or anything like that. It's just that like I'm one of not very many people that probably have this and can appreciate it. And you know, like it's probably in the thousands, probably.
And
but
frankly, like the world needs people like you doing this stuff. Like otherwise, the shit is just gonna get lost to the sands of time. You know, like. How many? This happened with the Atari world. There's like Atari games that people don't even know about that like they'll pop up at once in a while, and there's like Atari collecting has gone downhill. Like there's just not a lot of the people who are big into it kind of are reaching that age where obviously it's just limited. But it wasn't cataloged in the same way that the NES was or the Super Nintendo was. There were games coming from all over the place, but. Like to me, it makes me happy that there's people out there like making these full sets, like preserving, like even like finding these games, preserving them, keeping them in good condition, like not wrecking them, not like throwing them on the floor, keeping them in a humid basement where they're getting all fucked up. Like it just makes me happy to know that people are out there preserving this stuff, like what you're doing. Yeah.
I mean, who knows if our kids will enjoy this stuff, but
I don't know. I do wonder, like, is cleaning out the house after I die, like, is it gonna be like a joyful holy shit, he had a original Zelda in a box, holy shit, or oh my god, look at all this junk.
At the very least, they're gonna be educated as to what the stuff's worth, and if they end up selling it, that at least
maybe
get value for it.
Maybe.
So the coup de grace of this kind of discussion, and I believe this is number 5, or actually it might even be I think it's number 5 on the NES list, period. Like the first expensive? Party American release, not like the third party ones, not Nintendo World Championship, none of that stuff. I'm just double checking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is number 5 on the list.
Okay.
So the things that are above it are Little Samson, which I have. Flintstones Surprise at Dino Peak, which I have, but it's in shitty condition.
Yeah.
Panic Restaurant and Bonk's Adventure, which I don't have.
Wait, no Stadium games?
No, those are special. Like, those aren't really like, I mean, you can count World Championship or, what's the other one? Fitness stadium events, but stadium events has such a weird. It was not regularly available. Like they took it off the shelf.
It was recalled so that Nintendo could make their own version with the power pad, right?
So Little Samson is the top as far as I'm concerned. And if I ever came across a stadium events, I don't even know if I'd want to buy it because I wouldn't be paying 10 grand for it.
No.
If I found it at a garage sale or some shit, I'd be pretty excited. But I'm not going out there to do that.
It'd be hard to
So
keep a good poker face with that one.
right now, I'm going to $20 for it. I would probably have to tell them what they had, to be honest. I don't think I could morally get away with stealing from some little old lady on a corner. So Power Blade 2. It wasn't even on my list.
I didn't even know there was a Power Blade 2.
Yeah.
No
So
shit.
it was a very limited release. It's not as good of a game as the first one. They didn't even have the first one at the Retro Store. I probably would have picked that up as well because I had a little bit of extra credit. But this is a fucking expensive game.
How much was it?
And
don't want to tell us, do you? Oh wow,
yeah,
500.
Like 500. Yeah. Goose.
Power Blade 2. The first Power Blade is pretty fun, right?
Yeah. So the first one gets really good reviews, and it's got a lot of cool weapons, a lot of cool enemies. And then the Power Blade 2, apparently it's just they stripped a lot of it out for some reason.
Doesn't seem like a good decision.
No, so I'd like to get the first one. The first one goes for I think like 65-ish. I'll probably eventually pick that up. I'm probably more motivated now that I have the second one.
Power Blade is like you would never know that's going to be a good game because it like features the most generic dude as like the character, and even like his box art looks generic. His in-game character looks generic. Look, that's just like generic. We're trying to look like, I don't know, Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger guy.
With that giant boomerang.
Yeah. Our gimmick is a boomerang. But actually, the game is pretty fun. I've played it a little bit on the Mister. Like, a little bit. But, yeah, people love it. It looks fucking generic as hell, though.
I'd like to pick up the first one because I've heard good things.
Yeah.
But yeah, they this is funny. They have a lot of rare stuff, and I've picked up quite a few of them recently. And I don't know. I feel like they're like they are saying goodbye to their children going off to college every time I leave with one of one of
the big ones.
Literally, I've seen this game there for at least a year.
Yeah, well,
and Arrow Fighters was there for a couple of years and stuff, and they have like Zombie Nation. They had Panic Restaurant there for a while, but I was not in the realm of being able to get that with credit or anything like that. And I wasn't going to pay.
How much is Panic Restaurant? 6 or 7?
Like 6 to 7, depending on condition.
Like once you get like the top 10, it sounds like you're kind of getting there. Like you might as well just get the complete set, right? Because most of the shit is going to be common.
No. Because you're talking about a difference between 10 and 20 games, or 600 and some odd, 660 or something.
Yeah, but most of the shit is going to be common.
I don't want any of that shovelware. Like I want the good stuff.
You just want the highlights.
Yeah, I'm at like 150 NES and like 160, 170 SNES currently.
Really?
And probably half of those are all complete in box.
Wow. The only thing I really want in box is Genesis games.
Well, yeah, I mean, those are relatively easy to get comparatively.
Yeah, and also they're cool looking.
You don't take a lot to keep them holding up and protecting them and stuff.
I do have a couple of games in box, like in cardboard boxes, and I don't keep the games in the boxes because I don't want to like fuck up the boxes by opening and closing it.
Yeah, I don't have enough space.
Ruins some of the fun.
Yeah. Once if we end up getting a bigger house in the next 5 years and I can have a room with like shelving across the entire room, I'll do that. I'll separate the carts out.
Yeah.
But right now, we just don't have the space, so I have to keep them in there.
Yeah.
So
you gotta get a bigger house, fit all your stuff, man.
This is what happens when you get old, right?
Yeah, totally.
I just started like a savings track to try to get us on track to possibly buy a bigger house.
Oh, really? 5 years. Do you own or do you rent?
We own.
Yeah.
But realistically, the only reason we were able to afford to own and afford a down payment, because we have weird financial stuff. At least my wife was going to school, and I've always been freelance and self-employed and stuff. But my dad passed away 9 years ago, and he left me, my sister, and my brother a good chunk. So we were able to
buy Power Slave 2 for
off.
The NES.
Like we paid our cars off. We paid a down payment on the house. What was that?
I said we were able to buy Power Slave 2 for the NES.
Power Blade 2? Yeah, no. Most of what what we have now is either in the house, like as equity, or as like stocks. We don't have like a bunch of like cache just stored from that at all.
Yeah.
But such is life.
Such is life, Jay. Is that the end of the
Such is
collection?
life. All right, bye.
I have got to activate Windows. You know what I told you I rebuilt this computer. I built this computer basically after I was having
you're
audio
stealing
issues.
Windows too, Briar,
Oh,
Mr.
man.
ROM guy.
I don't, like I want to eventually pay for this version of Windows, but it's like it's never convenient to give Microsoft $100. You know what I'm saying? And like you could do those like CD key things where you get Windows for like $12. You know, the Windows like fell off the back of a truck kind of thing. But every time I do that, I always have to end up calling Microsoft to like to like confirm that it's real. So it's like I never like feel like doing it, right? Like I know that to do it, I've got to call Microsoft to like I don't know why they make you call them, because I don't know, it's a shady copy of Windows probably. But yeah, it's now activate Windows is now like it's like mirroring itself across the screen, and it's now like in the OBS window.
Oh, no. Well, is that why you've been skipping? Like your video's been skipping a little bit today.
I have been skipping. Oh, I didn't know that. I hope it's not recorded that way.
Well, hopefully not. You're recording.
Oops.
I was wondering if it was me, if I was like backing up on Carbonite or something like that. I was like, am I?
I also have kids in the house who are probably playing video games and talking to their friends on Discord right now. And I used to, when I podcast, just turn off the Wi-Fi so that I was the only one using the internet. But now that my kids, quote unquote, are 19 years old, and I think that they could take me if they team up.
Damn.
I'm not turning off the Wi-Fi anymore.
Please don't bother me. Please give me some time. Please.
Oh, we have fiber internet, so we have 1,000 up and 1,000 down, so it should be fine. But I don't know.
Thank you. Mom, can you get off the phone? I need to use the internet.
Yeah, totally. We had a second line installed.
Pick up the phone and just hear kink. The hell? You had a separate phone line?
Yeah, we installed a separate phone line because we kept doing that to each other.
Must be nice.
Yeah, it was nice.
we absolutely did not.
No.
AOL 2.0.
We also got I won't tell that story. Save that story. We had free AOL basically.
Stealing more shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to steal everything on Napster and all that stuff. I think.
Yeah, everybody. Napster was fucking crazy that was a free for all.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who came away from that thing clean.
I did BitTorrent. I used to BitTorrent like all of my movies, all of my games, like all of my software. I made a living off of Adobe software for years off of legal copy. Like it got to the point where I think as an adult now that I can afford these things and don't use them as much either because not as much free time, where I felt like I need to pay reparations for all the shit that I stole when I was a teenager and couldn't afford it. No, seriously. So then when
Adobe will make you do it $50 a month, motherfuckers. Jesus.
No, I've been paying $53 a month for Adobe software for the last 9 years, something like that.
Wow.
And I don't use it nearly as much. But
I don't even like it.
Feel like I owe it to them.
I can't stand it. I'd much rather be. I'm buying a Mac probably within the next couple of months so I can go back to Final Cut because I cannot stand Adobe Premiere. I legitimately hate it.
I use Premiere Elements, which is the consumerized version of Premiere. It's like a lot easier to use, way simpler transitions, all that stuff. Because like you said, I got into Premiere and I just didn't know where to start. I was like, there's just too much shit.
It's not even that. It's the fact that it's just unreliable software. Like it
really.
When I edit, so after a podcast, what I do is I download the podcast using a program. I think it's called. I have it right here.
You don't record locally?
Twitch Leecher. No, I don't, because OBS doing two things at once is unreliable.
Really?
Yeah. So Twitch Leecher, I download the show off of Twitch Leecher, and then I have to cut off the beginning because we usually stream for like 3 to 4 minutes before we actually start the show, and I cut off the end if I remember to, and then I just render out the show. with Adobe Premiere, it can take anywhere from 45 minutes to render out the show to 6 to 8 hours. And I don't know why. With the same computer, I don't know why it's so randomly different. So for that, I always use DaVinci Resolve now, which always takes 30 minutes every time. So why does Adobe seemingly randomly take 8 hours instead of... And then if it's going to take 8 hours, I can't post the show in the morning because I like to post the show at 7 a.m. in the morning so that people who are going on their commute or something have something to listen to when they're on the ride to work. But, I'm not going to stay up for the next 8 hours.
Right. That's weird.
Yeah. So I use DaVinci Resolve mostly for the podcast because it's more reliable. Adobe, I don't understand Adobe. Like, why is it? It's like made out of like Flash Player and Java from 1999. Like, what the fuck's going on with this thing?
You hear that they're completely shutting down all support for Flash, or they already did.
Yeah, I think they just did. Yeah.
I used to design in Flash when that came about. I was a web designer, graphic designer. I fucking hated it. It was like, this makes no sense, but the client wants Flash because it's the thing that everybody's using.
Yeah.
I hated it so much.
Yeah. Remember, didn't Apple ban it for a while on Macs?
I don't know.
I can't remember. Anyhow, Jay, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube at JSniperton. I stream 5 nights a week, usually playing Destiny, sometimes retro stuff in the middle of the night for Americans when you probably should be sleeping. So if you have insomnia like Briar and you want to hang out, we got some cool folks. Don't forget the RetroSlot podcast has a Twitter, which I will probably be doing a giveaway for one of those Game & Watch LED ones soon. So if you want to get in on that, if you want to see the announcement, make sure you follow that Twitter. And yeah, Briar, what about you?
You can find me posting. I'm going to be shit posting for the next 2 weeks. Altered Beast memes at Jay. That's my goal. If I can do one a day, I think that's aggressive. One every other day.
Wow.
I just want to. You know what I'm just going to do is, how that bald guy teleports down. He's like, "Welcome to your doom." I think I'm just going to record that part and just text that to you once a day. Something like that. I'm not sure what's going to happen yet, but follow me at the Briar Rabbit on Twitter, and we can bother Jay for the next 2 weeks about Altered Beast. I'll also be posting some stuff over my YouTube channel in the upcoming days. It's been a little quiet over there, but we're getting back into it. And I plan on streaming 2 things. I want to stream some Dreamcast games in the upcoming week or so, and Hitman 3, when that comes out, I'll be streaming a ton of that because that game is incredibly fun to stream because it is pure bullshit. It's like a thing that is made out of pure bullshit, and it's amazing. It's more amazing for it. And that's it.
Nice.
That's going to end the show. Thank you for watching. Thank you for showing up, Jay. I'm surprised.
Thanks
every other week you show up, and I'm like, oh, he's back. I can't believe it. I'm like, it's Jay.
Happy New Year, Briar, by the way.
Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to you, and Happy New Year to the audience. Thank you for hanging out with us every other week, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye. Have a good one.
Bye.